this has been a long time for the pair of us. We've been 4 months away through illness, life itself, and a 3-week course that resulted in absolutely bloody nothing. But here we are. We are both back. This is the VIP Podcast Productions, episode 6 with Rob and JJ.
Afternoon, guys. Well, it's not afternoon, is it? It's still morning.
As we're recording this, but it's afternoon somewhere, in some part of the world.
Yeah, exactly. I'm speaking out to like our followers and across the globe.
How are you doing today, JJ?
I'm good, mate. All good. Yourself?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting your views on Board in Fight. It's Night of Glory, and also maybe touch on the end of Day of Reckoning.
Yeah, we've got quite a bit, haven't we, to go through?
Yeah, I mean we've got the Four Kings match. We've got we've got quite a few grudge matches. We've also got you apparently turning face in the space of 3 weeks.
Well, we'll get on to that. We'll talk about it.
Yeah, but first of all, let's actually excuse me. Let's actually have a look at the Night of Glory card. Just for a quick reminder of what happened recently, because a lot of changes have happened since we've last been on here.
Yeah, the Fed's just kind of, we've always got to adjust and pivot and whatever. So yeah, quite a lot's gone on, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we've got new people coming in. We've got people leaving, supposedly. I mean, looking at this Elimination Chambers, looking at the first match, Fight for the Rights, which is basically equivalent to Money in the Bank, isn't it? Or is that the Gateway to Glory shot?
No, Fight for the Right is our equivalent, I would say, of Money in the Bank. I think when it first originated in 6WF, it was a tournament, like a bit like King of the Ring. I kind of prefer it as like a one-off match, personally.
Okay. Like I say, in here we've got Brandon Perez, Jeff Steele, Mike Hill, O'Callaghan, Percy Percival, and always needs more Harris.
The man.
Yeah, interesting stuff. I mean, let's look at it from an outsider's point of view. With Percy and Brandon, I mean, they're having issues, aren't they? Or are they?
Yeah. Well, this is the ongoing storyline that we've been sort of hyping since they lost the tag title. So I'm not sure exactly when that was. I think it was early, maybe January time.
Yeah, I think we were just about to cover it, or it just happened.
Yeah, and then obviously we kind of did the old sort of Perez concussion angle, and like he's kind of lost his mind a little bit, which has drove like a wedge between him and Percy. Now, I don't know. I'm sure this rings a bell for me in some Fed or storyline from years gone by, I think. And I can't pinpoint what it was.
I think I might know what you think. Isn't the Cactus Jack stuff in WCW like 93? Like the Lost in Cleveland, like the Lost in Cleveland stuff?
Potentially something like that. I know it rings a bell. This kind of thing that obviously we know nowadays. I'm trying to play off a realism in terms of obviously a lot of studies have been done now, and concussions can be potentially, well, they're deadly, but they can be mind altering. And I think that's kind of what we're trying to do. Perez isn't himself, but it's whatever's going on with him. It's bringing out a very, very different side to his personality.
Yeah, I can clearly see and understand that. I mean, do you want to run down the rest of day one, or do we just go through match by match?
Yeah, look, we can go. We'll just go through. We'll go through the matches if you want. We can start with this one.
Yeah, I mean, this did open Night of Glory, so I think actually did it, or was that something else?
No, this was the opening. This was the opening match of the whole pay-per-view.
Yeah, but I'm looking at this. I'm looking at the actual card, the actual thing as well. You open with Panic at the Disco.
All right, yeah. We're just kind of doing all these live like music acts and everything, which you see a lot, sort of. And I think it kind of makes sense with we do the 3 days now, don't we? So
I mean,
there has to be a bit of filler. If people are paying good money, if we're making out that people are paying good money to come to, you know, these big stadiums and that, like you can't just give them a couple of matches and then say, right, time to go home.
yeah, I mean, thinking about it though, I mean, when was last you were? I think you'd only done one 3-day show.
Yeah, no, yeah, we trialed it at Day of Reckoning.
Oh, how
That
you
was the
find?
first one that we
Well, how you,
did.
well, how you finding it in terms of writing it and booking, like what goes where? How you finding it?
So much easier, personally. The Obviously the general consensus and feedback of Day of Reckoning was that it worked. People were happy with it. I think it makes a lot of sense for a few reasons. I mean, yes, from a writing perspective, it makes it easier for me because, like, you need to get each day done, so it gives you a little bit more time for each show. But
Yeah,
also, it's less to digest in one go. Like, if you look at the 3 days of Night of Glory, I think it totals out at something about 87 posts or something like that for the 3 days. Now, if I posted that all in one go, that's a lot to go through.
yeah,
I think it just makes sense now with the we've got a really good sized roster, like we really do. But now we're looking at pay-per-views, like minimum probably sort of 9, 10 matches to get most characters on the card. Like, I just think it's too many now. I mean, at a push, we could do maybe for certain pay-per-views, we could maybe do two, two nights, but I don't foresee us really going back to the one. I just think it's just too much to get ready, and it's too much to read.
yeah. I can kind of understand that. I mean, just did a quick count of how many post Night of Glory actually was. It was 93.
Well, that's what I mean. 93 posts, like if I'm posting that all in one go on one day, and I think not only is it a lot, that'd take me hours to post it, but not just that. It's like I feel like certain matches and certain characters wouldn't get their moment because I'm not having a go at anybody because I'd do the same, but I think you'd skip over stuff and whereas when it's over a 3-day thing, I think you tend to focus on everything. Then people are more inclined to read every match and get into every story.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, also the fact you've basically got everyone here because this is the equivalent of one of our WrestleManias. So
Yeah, yeah. It's always the plan as best as we can to get everybody, like every character on the cards. But sometimes there are going to be times when, say, for example, certain people have got 2, 3 characters. So we do have scope sometimes to not have, maybe a couple of their characters involved in a pay-per-view. And that probably will happen going forward. But there'll never be a time when nobody doesn't have any kind of involvement. Like you'll have at least one of your characters will have a match.
or a segment in some cases.
Yeah, yeah. I'm never ever gonna. That's the same with the weekly shows, though. Like, we don't ever leave anyone off in terms
Unless
of you're not gonna fight every week. I think that is too much now, and I don't think it's realistic. But I will always have everybody involved.
I will say this: I think the only real exception is for storyline reasons.
Oh yeah,
I
like yeah. I mean, but even if then you're not on the show, like you'll be mentioned as to why that person isn't on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's like basically, oh god, who when they did COVID Money in the Bank during COVID, who got pushed off the roof and then was fine like 4 months later? Was it AJ?
I think there was a couple, wasn't there? I think Rey Mysterio got thrown off the roof as well.
Oh god, it was, but like I say, they just came back absolutely fine. It's like, yeah, you've kept them off. It's like, okay. I mean, you can just imagine them showing up next week saying, "I'm fine."
Yeah, I mean that was that was like a fever dream, wasn't it? It was a very weird time.
Oh god, I just remember the worst case scenario. Basically, uh, Big Show winning the title off Hogan after that monster truck match.
All right, yeah. I mean, I've never ever really. I think I've seen a clip of it. I don't think I've ever sort of tortured myself enough to watch the whole thing.
I have not watched I've only watched that entire match, and it's literally just a case of the image is basically just a giant falling off the roof of Cobo Hall and into a pool, and yet he comes out later for the main event and he's bone dry.
Yeah, you've got to have realism as well, haven't you? Do you know, like, don't get me wrong, it's even in our Fed, it's not real. So we can push the boundaries like a lot more than, say, a real Fed, because the people aren't really getting hurt, etc. But you've still got to make it realistic in terms of, you can't do something absolutely mental and then have that same person involved in the show later on.
Looks like so Eddie Kent will not be returned. Oh no, spoilers! Can't say that. Not yet.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that.
Yeah. So for
go on.
example, it will basically be a case of like say Saint and myself will not be in a match on the show because of what we did to each other.
I mean, it's unlikely. Look, we've got nearly a 2-week gap, so it's not beyond the realms, I guess. But if one of you were involved in a match, you'd be extremely compromised. You're not going to be.
Yeah.
Look, we did it, I think, and it. Obviously, you need the character handlers to be on board. So a great example being that at Born in Fire last year, we did the hardcore hell match with Blue Dragon and Logan, and it was deadly, like really, really brutal, which is what you would expect. And afterwards, I had a little chat with Lee, and we kept Logan. Logan wasn't on any of the shows until the next pay-per-view.
Yeah, I completely understand why. I mean, that kind of match is just ridiculous. I mean, it's just that kind of match. Like, yeah, he's gonna have to stay away for a while and not post anything.
Exactly, and this is obviously you need people to be understanding. And the good thing with Lee is obviously Lee's awesome anyway, but we brought Udo Berg back, so like he had involvement in the show. He had something else to work with, whilst we kept Logan away to like sell the story.
Yeah. Now let's get back onto the track. Let's go into our first official match of night. I think the fight for the Elimination Chamber.
Yep.
I mean, just having a quick scan of it now. Trying to find out who gets eliminated first.
O'Callaghan gets eliminated first. We did the bit of the sort of, was it 2006, a bit like the Kurt Angle kind of, I think he was sort of bossing it a little bit, and then he just gets eliminated out of nowhere by Scott Harris, Harris just basically enters the match and takes O'Callaghan out like straight away.
I'm trying to think if Angle was Angle in the chamber?
Yeah, 2006, Cena won, and then Edge cashed in after.
New Year's Revolution, yeah.
But yeah, sort of, look, it's tough with O'Callaghan. Obviously, he's Ollie's character, and Ollie's a busy lad. I've spoke to him a few times, and he's always happy to have his characters involved, but he struggles for time. I think he's getting married in a couple of months, and it's tough for him. I think it's hard because I think he likes, he's got a lot of time for the Fed, and he'd like to be involved, but obviously then it's tough for me because I don't want to book him really weak, but I can't book him strong either.
I completely understand the concept. I mean, his balance time. Obviously, marriage and wife is important.
Absolutely, 100%.
On a personal note, go have fun, mate. Just go nuts. I don't know, get chained to a train or something.
Look, I wish him all the best, and obviously we say with everybody, real life comes first. I really like the O'Callaghan character. Obviously, when he was first brought in, I think it was around 2016. 17. We allude to it a lot in the shows. He was on fire. Like, he won the fight for the right. It was like Ollie's best work ever, and we'd love, for that to happen again. But he's got other things going on at the minute, so you know, it's just one of them.
And on a personal note, I'm not calling your future wife a train. I'm literally wanting you in a stag do to basically go to a stag do, get your mates, tie you to a train, just let it go.
Yeah, I'd do right. That's a bit harsh.
If
Tying them to a train.
No, I'm basically not. I don't want to. I'm not insulting his future wife.
No, you're not insulting his future wife. You're just telling him to potentially, for his mates to kill him before his wedding.
It's a stag do thing. It's an example. I mean, get chained to a fence, to a tree. I don't know. Just go enjoy yourself, mate.
I think I'm going to save you from this and just go back to the match before
Thank
you say anything. Right. Yeah. Good luck, Ollie. But look, yeah. So O'Callaghan was first one out, and then Brandon Perez was the next one, which was like a miscalculation with him and Percy.
Oh yes, this was. Where is it? Percy missed his. Hill moved out of a Percy super kick, and Perez took the hit.
Yeah, and we've done this. I think this happened a few shows ago as well. Similar kind of thing. So, obviously we're putting everything together. It doesn't take a genius to work out kind of where this story's going. And it's a shame. I think for me, we've talked about it before on these podcasts and stuff, like them two characters have been fantastic, and I don't think anybody ever believed that they could get to where they are. As a tag team, they've been great, and we've all loved it. I think it's one of them storylines that genuinely would have fans really gutted, because I don't think people would want to see them split up.
I mean, I didn't want to see them split up, but like I say, things happen.
This is look, I have conversations with people, everyone involving their characters and what they would like to do. Liam messaged me a few months ago, and we talked about how he kind of wanted to explore a sort of darker side to Perez's character. It's his character, so I'm happy to go with that. And I think, him sort of turning on Percy is a fantastic way, obviously, to make that happen, because it would have a huge impact on like a live TV program.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, look, so Perez gets eliminated. We've got that. So then we go down to, we've got 4 left, haven't we?
And we've got literally about a few lines down. We have a very interesting elimination. I mean, I don't think anyone's ever been eliminated like this. And that is basically the referee calling it and waving off and basically getting Mike Hill out of there.
Yeah, well, look, again, we're kind of playing around with a few concepts at the minute. Look, you read sort of how that match is going and stuff we've been doing with Hill and Steele, and Hill's kind of trying to manipulate Steele's mindset and telling him that, like, basically it's all corruption, and the powers that be don't want people like them sort of at the top. So for me, this is a great kind of way for Hill. It gives him more ammunition, doesn't it? Because he can claim that he never got eliminated from this match.
Yeah, much like Cerberus can claim he's still the rightful champion, technically.
Well, yeah, and look, this is for me, it's all about sort of adding little facets to each storyline, because Hill, you need things where he's going to be presented as fairly believable, in terms of when he's trying to speak to Jeff Steele and say, look, they were trying to ensure that Scott Harris won the match because CWF wants Harris to win because he's the poster boy and the fans love him and it means money, and that's why they eliminated Hill without him tapping out, etc., etc. And we all know it as fans as bullshit, but it kind of, you've got to have a legitimacy to Hill's words, because otherwise Steele wouldn't pay attention to him, would he?
Yeah, true. And I mean, just think about it now. I mean, obviously we'll get to the ending when we get to it, which reinforces what you just said. But it's a case of, I mean, it feels. I don't. My memory might be failing me here slightly. But have you done something similar with this before?
I mean, we've done so many storylines, mate. Potentially, I guess.
Okay.
But I mean, for me, I think I sort of made mention in the chat that there's an element, I think, of Hill's character at the minute. I'm sort of looking a bit like Karrion Cross, like with what he's been doing.
Yeah, like what Sean O'Hare used to do back in
Yeah, like
03?
yeah. The Sean O'Hare character should have been, obviously he passed away, didn't he, and stuff. But that new character that he was debuting in WWE, I mean, I think that would have been a massive hit.
Oh wow, I honestly thought Sean O'Hare was still alive.
No, he passed away, didn't he?
Over a decade ago. My
Yeah.
memory is going terribly.
Well, he was a phenomenal athlete, and obviously they booked him really strong when he first came back with that character.
Yeah, the Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, and this is, we've never done this with Hill before. Hill's always just kind of been the sort of just like a cocky sort of, I'm better than you kind of thing. But I think it's quite interesting to explore. We've been exploring Steele's frustration and desperation to get back to the top. He has a
Yeah.
massive history with Mike Hill, which, and I love. Obviously, I've said before that when I watch certain things, TV shows, wrestling, whatever, like I do get ideas, and I think what Cross is doing at the minute, like I think he's one of the best things in WWE. I think he was one of the best things in TNA when he was in that. As an actual promo guy, I don't think there's many better, and like his manipulation of AJ Styles and stuff in the build up to WrestleMania and everything like that. Like I think that's kind of what we're looking at.
Yeah, and I can completely understand that. Hopefully you won't drop the ball as bad as Triple H has done with this.
No,
Like,
I mean, look, well, I'd like to think not, but we'll see.
I mean, literally, Cross is getting over on main event.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's a money character, 100%, and I think we've got a great scope for it in our Fed right now.
Yeah, and obviously, following on from that, we've got the Scott Harris inevitably tapping Percy Percival out.
Yeah, look, again, I think this builds off of last year. Percy came back, Night of Glory. It was on a whim. We've talked, we discussed it in one of the initial podcasts. I kind of approached Marky a couple of days before Night of Glory. We needed a mystery opponent. I tried to get some big names. Nobody ever got back to me. I thought, right, well, Percy's obviously like one of them fun characters. So I asked Marky if he would be up for it, and he said, yeah, happy days. It was, and then from there, I thought, do you know what, like, let's add a bit of legitimacy to him. So the following pay per view, he was in the initial hour match at Scars and Stripes, and he wasn't the first. Everyone assumed because it's Percy, he was going to be the first man out, but he wasn't. I think he was second eliminated, but he had a good run, and then we gave them both, Percy and Perez, a good run in the Elimination Chamber, the tag team one, and
yeah,
I think this was the same. Like at this pay per view, I wanted him to look good, and I wanted him to look strong in terms of not just having him like booked really weak kind of thing.
Yeah, I can understand it. It's like oh god,
wait there, mate. Sorry, I've got a delivery. I've told you I'd have one.
Okay. Well, as we're doing now, I actually remember this actual the predictions for this match. I think I was the only one who I didn't predict the winner, but I think my prediction was Percy does not get eliminated first. I was the only one to. I know it sounds ridiculous and stupid, but hey ho. But yeah, we have Percy getting eliminated. Then we just have an all-out fight. There's not much I can really say about this. It is literally just what walloping blow after walloping blow
Bonjour.
until hello.
What are we up to? Are we up to what are we up to?
Well, I was just about to basically go through Mike Hill's return. Return to the outside of the chamber. So
Okay, yeah, this was so Percy's out. We've done that, haven't we?
yeah, we've just done Percy's been eliminated, and I
Yeah,
went over basically my prediction for that Scars and Stripes, which was Percy would not be eliminated first.
yeah. I think you were the only one. I think you were the only one to predict it at the time. So yeah, so we've booked him strong, which I think is grand. I think he's a really good character, and I think he would be massively over with the live crowd. So I think having him get to like the final three was a good shout in terms of this was a very
Yeah,
different elimination chamber this year. I think if you look at past ones that have been done at Night of Glory, they've been this is no slight, but they're like massive names, like 5 or 6 huge names. But I didn't want that this year because we had so many big matches down the card that I thought, it'd be nice to give some different characters a big match.
yeah,
And this is what we did. And I think obviously most predictions, what I read, most people expected it was either going to be Steele or Harris. I think they were obviously the most obvious two winners. So
yeah. I think I went with Harris myself.
I don't think anybody was overly surprised that they were the final two.
And then we get onto the influence of this. So Mike Hill being very influential in the end of this.
Yeah. Obviously we've got him climbing up the side of the chamber to distract Harris. And
Allowing
then
Jeff Steele to just take the win with a follow. How is that?
so what we did, first of all, we had him climb up and he hits the AA off the top of the chamber on Harris, and then he climbs down and he looks a little bit like, he's conflicted because of what's happened and the way in which he's sort of on top, but then realization dawns that this is his big moment, this is what he's waited for, and
he
he hits the moonsault fall away slam.
Yeah, my apologies. I was trying to describe that. It's just like, huh?
Yeah, Hangman Page does it. It's very good. It's a very
I
good
must
move.
admit,
I
I've
like.
not watched Hangman Page recently.
It's one of my favorite moves, and and it was a way of not only giving Steele the big win, but obviously we made Harris look like a legitimate badass as well because he's literally been launched off the top of the pod, and then he still has to take this move off the top rope in order to finish him.
Yeah,
And you've always got to be protective of people at the same time. Like Harris is a massive character. Obviously, in story, he's massively over, and he's a reigning champion. So we wanted him to look good, but he wasn't going to win this match. But for me, this is nothing against anybody because we've talked about it so many times before. Dale, obviously, Saint is a friend of mine, and the Harris character is brilliant, and he's done great work with him. But this match was always, obviously, in my head, booking it was about Steele. Like I've been trying to get across since Day of Reckoning, and probably a little bit before. The hints have been there that we're going to start putting Jeff back into the main event where I think he belongs personally, and I think it's a very interesting dynamic now with him with that briefcase.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see where it goes with it. I mean, also with obviously Mike Hill being the devil's advocate. I mean, do we get? I mean, is he going to be more influential, or we? I mean, you don't have to give any direct answers or anything to it, but is he going to be more than just the devil on his shoulder? I mean, could you possibly see them as like a tag team of sorts?
Well,
Or
obviously they were, weren't they? They're former tag team champions, Steele and Hill. And
okay, let me rephrase. Could we possibly see them becoming a tag team again?
Yeah, I think it's very much on the table in terms of obviously what we want them to do with Steel, and we'll obviously get around to it when we talk about more of the show because it wasn't his last involvement at Night of Glory. Is that he's a very conflicted character right now. He still maintains at the minute this good guy persona. White, very whiter than white in some ways. Steel in terms of he's quite John Cena esque.
Yeah,
But he hasn't been a world champion, like we keep saying, for like 13 years. And the realization or the dawning is, what is he doing wrong kind of thing. And so obviously Mike Hill's kind of telling him, whispering in his ear, look, you need to like stop pandering to the crowd,
yeah,
into your own hands and all this kind of stuff. So, a little bit like, I guess, even though again the conclusion of it was shit, but when they had the embrace the hate storyline with John Cena and Kane.
yeah, and with Bray Wyatt with Bray Wyatt and Cena at their first WrestleMania match.
Yeah, and they bottled it both times, didn't they?
Yep.
But I think that's kind of what, not completely the same, but the same kind of elements in terms of we've got a true babyface character in Steel who has had a great career, but he hasn't managed to get back to the top for so long. Questions are now, why is that? Why is that
Yeah,
happening?
it's starting to play into his head.
Yeah, like he and Hill's obviously fueling that and saying that it's because he doesn't fit the mold of a top guy. Management keep purposefully stopping him from being the top guy, and now he's obviously got the briefcase. So in theory, nobody can stop him now because if he cashes it in, depending on when he does. But then that's going
Yeah,
to be a conflict of Jeff Steele's character too, which is I love it because it's so detailed in terms of Jeff Steele on paper isn't the kind of guy, as far as we're aware, that would cash in that briefcase on like a beaten up champion. Like that's not Steele's style. But
yeah, he'd RVD it, not edge it.
yeah, but the thing is, that means there's a bigger chance that if he chooses that route, he doesn't win. Do you know?
Yeah, I know
So
exactly what you mean.
I just think it's very interesting. I think the Steel character gives us that option that potentially, when we do the fight for the right, the same with the Money in the Bank, invariably, more often than not, they choose to go down the sort of route of we're going to cash it in after like a hellacious match or something like that, which makes sense for
Yeah,
certain types of
absolutely.
characters. And now Steele's got to make a decision on, obviously, again, we'll get onto it, but he had a big opportunity at this event.
I've just been reminded of I've just remembered what this reminds me of. You remember when Daniel Bryan had the Money in the Bank briefcase?
Yeah, do you remember?
Yeah, basically him with like on the sidelines of the Big Show Mark Henry feud.
Yeah.
And Big Show was constantly just basically trying to get him to do it, and it's just like too late and stuff like that.
So this is So look, Steele is it's like when John Cena won Money in the Bank and he cashed it in, didn't he, on Raw?
Oh, yeah,
He faced Punk. He faced Punk, didn't he, on Raw 1000 or whatever it was.
oh yeah.
And Big Show interfered, didn't he? And
Yeah, and then Punk came back later and hit the Rock. Yeah,
yeah. So Jeff Steele for me is a bit like our sort of John Cena like esque character in terms of, again, he had this massive Extreme Championship record setting reign last year. We know that Cena had that in the locker too, in his earlier career, the JBL matches and stuff like that. So he has got that hardcore element. But
yeah,
Now it's about sort of mindset and about morality. This is what I like about it. It's almost like a moral dilemma now that Jeff Steele finds himself in. He's desperate to be world champion again, but
Yeah,
is he willing to basically sell his soul, or is he going to go about it, in a professional way, but
yeah,
potentially not win?
yeah. I know exactly what you mean. But before we go into a little bit of a spiral doom loop, we have a small section regarding Crystal Palace.
Yeah,
And
obviously we're all chuffed for Palace. Do you know what I mean? Like, sorry for any of our
yeah,
guys
I'm
that
for
are
Palace as
City
well.
fans, but yeah, up the Palace.
And then we get onto obviously with Genesis arriving as well.
Yeah,
And then we get onto the second match, which I think in everyone's predictions we knew the result of this,
yeah,
and
of
that is
course.
JCA versus Michael Sweetwater.
Yeah, look, obviously it's the most obvious match of the entire card. Like, I'm not gonna sort of, we won't spend too long on this. Cable's back. We're all absolutely delighted. Never in a million years did I foresee this happening.
I mean, I actually checked his history as well. It's been a decade.
That's what I don't know where he, just blown me fucking mind when he messaged me and was like, I'd love to come back. And I'm like, where have you been? Like, that's mad. Um, and not only has he come back, but he's decided to throw 5 characters in the mix right off the bat. But yeah, look, JCA is obviously his main character. That's his singles character. He's got 2 tag teams. And we're delighted to have him back. Now, the problem of obviously being that not a problem, but this is why the match was such an obvious one, was because he comes back and I've already designed the Night of Glory card. Like, we're pretty much 75% through the build up for Night of Glory, and I've got no spare characters, like, kind of thing. It's just, and he needs a spot on the card. So I'm thinking in my head, and I'm like, I'm not going to try and get anybody back because, well, we've done this before and maybe they wouldn't come back. Plus, I don't want to bring someone back just to lose in their first match back. And I think
Yeah,
as a company, like, I think Michael Sweetwater we always portray him as like, he's a proper company guy, a bit like I don't know, but you're going to get a good match out of him. He's a proper professional.
yeah, but basically he's the guy who will make them look good,
Yeah,
but will always, well, majority of the time, take the losses.
yeah, that's it. Because obviously the guy, the handler, isn't around anymore. But Sweetwater's a massive part of our Fed, especially his ties with Genesis. Ed uses him all the time, so I think it made sense. And it's kind of one of them where we just, yeah, it's almost like just a showcase for JCA to get himself across to the
Yeah,
fans and show what he can do.
yeah. This is basically just the make JCA look good match, which is
Yeah, of
completely
course.
understandable with him returning.
Yeah, it's just a 5 minute sort of semi squash, really. Do you know, like,
Yeah,
and then
and
obviously we can move on now, and we
to
can get
your
him involved.
favorite segment on the entire Night of Glory.
Which one's this?
How you doing?
See, nobody knew he was coming. Nobody. I told you. I tweeted that he was coming back.
I'm sorry. I like to say it. Just this entire segment is just
It was
he's
just a
out.
bit. Look, yeah, go on, mate.
No, I'm just like he's out there having fun, and you must have loved writing this.
I love it. I've said it before. He's one of them. He's one of these characters that I don't know. Maybe like 10 years ago, I'd rolled my eyes at a character like this, but I do think there's a place for them in the Fed, and it's just a case of, for me, and I don't know, like, my sense of humor or whatever. Sometimes it's just nice to let go, instead of doing all the serious sort of JJ stuff and everything. I can just basically say whatever I want, and it doesn't even have to mean anything. It doesn't have to make sense, and most of the time it doesn't make sense. and that's the whole point. Do you know, like he's just
Yeah.
an angry. It's like a very Italian American stereotype. I get it. I know there'll probably be, if somebody's from anybody that we've got on the Fed or anyone that reads it is an Italian American, I apologize wholeheartedly. But yes, that's basically what he is.
Yeah, like I say, I completely get this. It is like what this reminded me of is, oh, do you remember the old WWF New York segments in the
Yeah,
bar?
yeah.
That also
I
nightclub
loved
or
him.
whatever it was.
Yeah, I loved him.
This reads just like it.
It's what I mean. Obviously, like I just think, you know, I'm not gonna have him wrestling loads of matches, kind of thing. You know, we'll use him as and when. But I just think he's fun. He's all like, you know, a bit like an R-Truth now, because you know, I know he's fucking headlining tonight in it, Saturday night's main event, but in reality, he doesn't
That's
even wrestle that
tonight.
many matches. Do you know what I
Sorry,
mean?
I know what you mean. I'm sorry, I'm just surprised that's tonight.
Yeah, I didn't know either. I was just on Twitter before, and it said that it was tonight. I
I'm
had
just,
no clue.
yeah, I'm just did I talk? Yeah, wow. I thought this was next week.
Yeah, no, it's tonight.
Oh, well,
So
okay.
yeah,
Anyway,
yeah. So
yeah,
Tony Monk, he's Monklicious. You know, like just it's just fun. So yeah, it wouldn't have been
yeah.
Night of Glory otherwise.
And then we get back. Then we get a musical segment from Incubus
Yep,
before we go into before we go into our third match of the night, the Extreme Championship with
absolutely.
Angus Plague defending against Daniel Riley and Perfect Jack.
Yep.
Oh boy!
And I think that obviously the I mean, there was a few predictions, but I think the overall consensus was that the champion was going to retain. I think the result took a few by surprise. I don't know what you predicted, mate.
I think I predicted a Plague retention.
Yeah, and look, that was an easy sell, obviously. And Angus Plague, you know, he's been off the board for a few weeks, but that didn't really factor in. He might be on holiday or something. You know, he's been fantastic since he joined, and we've booked him very strong, and we'll continue to book him very strong. He was booked strong in this match. He didn't get pinned.
Yeah,
This
the
was a
ending.
go on, mate.
Sorry, the ending with the clarification is Riley wrapping a chair around around Perfect Jack's head, and then hitting an RKO, hitting a leaping RKO through it,
Yeah,
and Daniel Riley getting his grand slam.
yeah. Which a couple of things here. Like I'll go through my thought process. I think sometimes, obviously, this match could have gone all three ways. Like, and I'm not just saying that. Like, it genuinely could. I could have put that belt on any of them three, and I think it would have been deserved, and there would have been no problem whatsoever. For where I want to go with the story, it made sense for Riley to win. One, because he deserves it. He's absolutely brilliant, and he's been one of our most consistent promos since we've restarted in 2023. I've got a lot of time for Dan. I think he's just he's fantastic, and the character's great, and it's Night of Glory. So a bit like WrestleMania, you like to have a history moment, you know, and this was a history moment. It's his
Yeah,
Grand Slam. It made sense. It also ramps up the feud with Perfect Jack, and the reason that I did what I did and put the belt on Riley to continue his feud with Jack is because they've obviously feuded a lot of times over the last 18 years or whatever. A bit like it's one of that you keep coming back to, like a Triple H and Shawn Michaels feud or whatever.
yeah,
But they feuded over the world title in 6CW. It's they've never had an extreme championship feud. And I think their styles, given that they're both predominantly quite technical wrestlers and submission based, gives a different outlook to Extreme. Instead of us doing the, when you do Extreme Championship matches, more often than not, they descend into a bit of chaos and a bit of, we're going to have a flaming table and we're going to have some barbed wire and we're going to have. Whereas I think with these two characters, we can do something a little bit different, and still make it brutal. I just think it's a different way to tell their story, and it's a great story. It's one of my favorites. They work really well together. And yeah, I'm looking forward to continuing that.
So it's a case of basically it will be a lot more restrained, a restrained match when they meet up eventually for the Extreme Championship.
Yeah, look, it's not going to be. It's not going to be like I've said. I'm not saying there won't be any big spots, but it's not going to be like glass tables and thumbtacks, and these are different guys who can cause extreme amount of pain to one another without having to resort to using loads and loads of weapons.
Yeah.
And I think that's an interesting way to twist it. Plus, again, we'll get onto it, but I had other plans for Angus Plague, and I kind of needed him out of this, so that I could put him in something else.
Then we get Casey Tucker interviewing Jeff Steele, with the crowd noticing a few boos, noting a few boos as well.
Yeah, again, it's all just little intricacies of, they're obviously not going to be happy of the way Steele won. It's not necessarily at the minute booing him per se, but I think the majority of the crowd, it would have been a split during the Elimination Chamber. I think half and half for Steele and Harris, but the manner of the victory, obviously, there's going to be a few boos.
Yeah, and I can understand that. Obviously, this is a tease for him possibly using the case at night 3.
Yeah.
Then we got into, does this go straight to the match? Or no, there's a couple of segments, there's actually one segment before it, of JJ or yourself arriving at Hampden Park.
Yeah.
And then I suppose it'll be, Sorry, I just had a thought in my mind, but I'm just dismissing it. Obviously, your entrance, we get a little bit of history with which Night of Glory is? Night of Glory 10.
Mm.
And then we get to the main event of night 1, Dicey Riley v JJ Johnson.
Yeah. Yeah. Which was a great match to write. I really enjoyed it.
And you've already preempted my question. But yeah, just looking through it now, you both get you get an absolutely fantastic entrance. Well, as does Riley, of course.
Look, I think it was kind of in my thought process. Night of Glory 10, Dicey Riley, he is and has always been portrayed as 6CW. He is 6CW, and this is their flagship event. And given that it's number 10, whilst we didn't put him in the Four Kings match, I think it was only fitting that he had to headline at least one of the nights. That goes without saying. Plus, it's always been a kind of bucket list match for me. And this was very much in the build-up, and the way I tried to get the match across was, even though he obviously eliminated me from the Gateway of Glory, that's how we started the feud. The real thing was, in my head, I always had the Rock Austin WrestleMania 19 feud. They're both sort of at that legendary status. And they can just kind of let go. There's no title on the line, but it's just two legends of the game. And I think, Dicey is great, and his promos are great, and we want to push him forward now. which is why he won. And obviously JJ's story is going in a much different direction, which will become apparent on the next show.
Okay.
And so it was just fun, like in terms of, obviously we did the couple of interferences. We went a bit like a Triple H Sting kind of thing with the involvement of obviously Tyson Armstrong, and then Dominion and Median on behalf of Dicey because of their history with JJ. I just think that would have been, in my head, obviously writing it, I feel like this would have just been massively over with the crowd.
Yeah, I can understand that.
You know, we
I'm
didn't
still
have those characters involved in the finish. They were involved in the middle part of the match, and then we take them out of it. So it's almost just a bit of a nostalgia trip, and then let the two guys finish what they started.
And obviously, the end result is Dicey Riley winning thanks to a VIP experience on the apron.
So JJ tries to hit. So the VIP experience is like a sit down tombstone, the one that fucking Owen Hart used when he broke Stone Cold's neck.
Oh,
yeah,
never
you know
mind.
the game. You know.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I've also messed up the finish because you tried to VIP experience,
Yeah.
but
So
JJ reverses into a crackdown.
So you remember the Elimination Chamber match, Batista and Undertaker, when he flips back over the ropes into the tombstone?
Yeah.
This was kind of, so JJ looks for the tombstone on the apron. Dicey flips over the ropes with JJ in his arms in a tombstone position, but then spins JJ's body into the pile driver. Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly. I know. Yeah, I get exactly what you mean. It's basically like it's the tombstone reversal. It's like just the standard tombstone reversal spot.
Yeah, pretty much. And obviously it's a big, a happy go home moment to end night one, which was important, I think, given what was to come.
Yeah, and then we've got yourself and Dicey shaking hands at the end of it.
Yeah, so obviously this is where you're saying about my 3-week face turn or whatever. I think it's important for what is to come that JJ starts to be almost repenting of what he's done over the last year or so. And obviously something big is coming. Something big is going to happen on the next show.
One thing I did want to point out, though, and this is purely from a character perspective, you came in alongside the Saint, even though in the previous week Saint has done some pretty heinous things.
Yeah, but he's best mate, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? He's JJ's best mate. Asa was there as well. We just didn't show him on camera.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, because he came. Oh, yeah.
You know, it's one of them where we're kind of blurring the lines.
I get you.
Between obviously what's real, kayfabe, and all that kind of stuff. But the idea was that obviously that's JJ's sort of training team, and Saint's obviously done some horrific things. And again, there will be more to all of this on the next show. Obviously, especially given the direction that we're going to start pushing JJ in, the direction that obviously the Saints going in at the minute. There will be some payoff to that. But all I can say is obviously with JJ, obviously everyone's aware that this will be the last year for the character, and what happens on the next show will be the beginning of his final story.
Yeah.
and I'm looking forward to it. I'm very much looking forward to it.
It's definitely looking to be a long-term story. I mean, I'm assuming December. Hang on, let's look at the schedule. I'm assuming we're looking Born in Fire 13 is going to be the last one.
That'll be his last match.
I'm assuming the aftermath afterwards will be kind of like thank you, JJ, and all that.
Yeah, we'll probably do something. But yeah, so it's a long story, but it's a story that one needs to be told, but also for me, obviously from a selfish personal perspective, it's a story that I've wanted to do for a very long time, and it's self-indulgent in a way, but it makes when everybody sees where it's going and obviously who it will be with, it makes sense. And not only does it make sense, but it kind of makes sense for me. I don't mean like as JJ. It makes sense for me as a person. It's just, I don't know. It's a bit poetic. I think it's the way it should be.
I kind of get it. I mean, I'm only just guessing here, but it's kind of like if I were to end up finishing, one of my last runs would be against Max, and I don't care what Marky says.
Well, no, but
I would love it to just be like, okay, this is what I'd want. Can you make it happen?
Well, you look at it, don't you? And when I decided that it was going to be the last year for the character, and I looked at the roster, and I think I'd love to feud with them, or I'd love to feud with them, but it has to. There's not time to put a lot of these feuds into place. Like, I'd love JJ and Rex to have a feud, but it's not viable. Like where we're at right now, I'd love JJ and Liam Wood to go at it, but again, we haven't got time now. Like, it's just not viable with where everybody's storylines are going. I've had fun. I had the feud with yourself.
Yeah.
I've had the feud with Asa, and they've been fantastic. I've had this month with Dicey, which has been great again. But there was only this is no slight on anybody, because like I said, I could feud with 1,000 people. I could feud with anyone on the roster, and we could make it a really good story. But I do think the person that I am going to feud with, it's going to be good. It's going to be really good.
And I'm assuming this will encompass all three remaining big shows.
Yeah, it will. It will start obviously at Scars and Stripes. It will continue in one form or another. There will be some semblance of this feud on the last 3 pay-per-views before the end of the year.
In that case, let's quickly move. Move on to speaking of the Saints, the opening match of night 2.
Yep.
And as you've hang on, let me just, where is it? Am I on the right? Yeah, I'm on the right one. Basically just Saints entrance and technically.
Wait a minute, that was. Did you try and sneak that in there? Did you say, speaking of the Saint? Are you trying to foreshadow that that's who I'm going to be feuding with?
No. Honestly, there is a lot of options open to you.
Because that sounded like you were trying to. That sounded like you trying to sneak that in there, mate.
I saw, literally, from a character's perspective, it is clear base with a clear heel next to him on the entrance. Yes, you mates, but still, it's still. I mean, it's just one of those things. I mean, it's like, God, I don't know, like me standing next to Tommy Robbins, walking with Tommy Robinson. It never happened.
Look, I've talked with Dale, and obviously the trajectory of the characters, especially now, kind of makes sense in some ways. And we've had some fantastic feuds. But look, you just have to wait and see. Like I said, after Aftermath, you'll know who JJ's feuding with.
Okay, like I say, it's just one of those things,
Oh yeah, look, mate, It's not a bad guess.
I'm not trying to dig info. I'm basically just offering my thoughts of what it could be.
It's not a bad guess. I can neither confirm or deny. You're just gonna have to wait and see.
Obviously, before actually scrolling back a little bit, we do have a flashback to Night of Glory 4.
Yeah, it's one of my
before the
favorite
match.
pay-per-views ever.
Speaking of matches, though, I know this is going to be slightly off tangent. What made you decide to do the match vault, the Hall of Fame match vault?
Just because I think Night of Glory being our WrestleMania was kind of like, oh, should we do a Hall of Fame as well? And to be honest with you, it was a big pay-per-view, and I kind of put all my eggs into writing the show. And about a week before, or whatever it was, I was like, oh, we maybe could have done a Hall of Fame. But then I thought, it's too short notice now. So I was like, oh, well, we've got Born in Fire as a massive show as well. And last year at Born in Fire, we inducted the Saint. So I thought, oh, well, let's have Hall of Fame at Born in Fire now instead. But I know WWE just started with their great matches, and they did it at their Hall of Fame. And I thought, we've had so many phenomenal matches. And I think sometimes, because we've got stuff spread out all over so many different sites and stuff like that, just be nice to have a collection of, fair enough, it's my opinion. So, stuff might get missed out, but I think it'd just be nice to, just go back sometimes and read some of the matches that kind of defined where we are.
Yeah, as long as you don't give them just a fucking ugly trophy.
Oh, no, there's no trophies. Like, you can go fuck yourselves. I haven't got that kind of money to be making trophies left, right, and centre.
No, but I just saw the one with the WrestleMania 13 one. Oh dear God!
No, you should just be happy with the accolade that you've made it into the vault.
And no getting Lee to draw these. Lee, no, don't stop it. Don't even think about it now.
I mean, Lee is welcome to draw whatever he likes, because he's an absolute legend. But he's busy, I think that was one of the things that he was when he first came back. It was kind of like I kind of wanted to, because it was getting Lee back. I know we're going a bit off tangent. Was massive for me. Like, it was one of the most important things when we restarted in 2023, and we got BD back.
Yeah,
and I was having a chat with him. I was saying about Lee, and he hadn't done this for a long time, and I really wanted him back for a few reasons. Have I got another delivery? Just wait there a minute, mate.
Oh God, JJ, I don't know what JJ is getting delivered. Please, but you know what? No. If you want to guess what JJ is being delivered, please put it in the comment. Please comment at the end of this video. And I don't know, you might want to mention on the next show if you get it somewhat close to right. I don't know, it could be just cookies, it could be tool parts. I have no idea.
How ridiculous.
Please put your comments in the description of what you think JJ's had delivered and how many
that wasn't for me. That wasn't for me. That is the missus. Oh, who fuck knows what she's ordered, mate? Like, it could be anything, because last week she had a shelf delivered, right, off fucking Temu or something. And I'm not joking, yeah. It had been around the world. So she'd been tracking this for like a month. And it had been in pretty much every fucking country in the world. Like, 1 minute it was in Kazakhstan. Then it was in Poland. Then for some reason it turned up in fucking Rotterdam. And eventually it got to our house. And I'm like, that is the most well-travelled fucking shelf I've ever heard in my life.
That's actually a reasonable travel route, though.
It's ludicrous, mate, honestly.
Considering for most delivery options, I mean, Rotterdam to UK is a pretty prominent travel route for cargo.
Yeah, for cocaine probably as well. But anyway.
Yeah, but anyway, you can guess what JJ's wife has brought, and if JJ can ever find out the answer, well, you get a mention.
Shoes, mate. It'd be shoes or some sort of item of clothing or some ludicrous household item for fucking turning cobwebs into a fucking curtain or something. I don't know, but
Okay,
Yeah.
let's go from that punishment to this punishment. The last man standing match between myself and the Saint,
Oh, it was a good one.
and his entrance.
Yeah, so well, say he wrote his own entrance, which I really liked it. It was really good.
What, me just basically just giving you the one line, just let me jump him.
Well, this is the thing. Obviously, I gave everybody the option of writing their own entrances. I like
Oh,
people to write their own entrances because, well, one, it saves me a job, and
yeah,
two, it's just your chance to kind of get your character's portrayal or whatever, and you obviously declined because you're lazy bastard. But
no, I
you just
declined
no,
because
but it made sense. It made sense from the perspective of everything that's been going on that you just wanted to get into it and just have a fight. And I think that's what we did in
on a
terms of yeah.
sorry,
Go on.
on a personal note, though, literally, I never like writing entrances for myself because it feels like I don't know. I'm too flashy. You know what I mean? Yes, on my character, I've got specialized like main event style music, but I'd never write an entrance for it.
Well,
If
that's
that
fine.
makes sense. I mean,
That's fine.
it, it's great. I mean, creatively, it's just like I don't think I could give it justice.
Fair enough then. Fuck you. I don't have one ever.
Thanks.
Um, whatever. Like, no, I get it. Look, it's one of them, isn't it? I just think with it being Night of Glory, like WrestleMania kind of event, it's they push the boat out, don't they? They have some crazy entrances, and
Yeah.
we didn't even talk about. How did we not talk about Percy Percival's entrance in the Elimination Chamber? Like,
Oh
I can't
god.
believe I haven't discussed him coming in on a massive animatronic pink fluorescent unicorn.
I must have completely missed that. I'm
Like, I'm
sorry.
actually disgusted that we haven't talked about it. Like,
Do
he
you want to go
literally
back and talk
floated
about it
down.
now? Do
What? Come
you
on.
want to go back and talk about it now?
Yeah, I do, yeah. Because do you know what? I don't know why in my head, right? When I was writing it, I'm thinking about the entrances. And I was like, that song, fucking Pink Pony Club. Like, my daughter loves it, and it's always on. And whenever I hear it, and then I was writing one day, like doing the show, and it was on, and I'm like, this song just fits Percy Percival's character like down to the ground. And yeah, I'm just thinking, let's just have a massive fucking pink horse coming down out the sky, and yeah, the rest is history. I think it's maybe the greatest entrance that's ever occurred in any professional wrestling company.
I have no words. And I'm just reading this, and I'm not quoting RJ here. I'm just reading. It's like, oh my! Somebody needs to animate this,
Look, honestly,
please.
yeah, I agree. Or get Ed to use like fucking Grok on Twitter to AI it or something. We need a picture of it. Just some little.
Meta can't get Meta can't get Eddie Kent's smugness right, so I don't know if Grok will.
We just need a little Filipino with a cowboy hat on, coming down out the sky on a big pink horse, and we're golden. It's all good.
With Chapel Rowan.
Yeah, if you can get air on there as well, like happy days. But yeah, that's just a little aside. Should we? If you want to get back onto
Yeah.
Last Man Standing,
Oh, I can't believe that. Sorry. Okay, back to the entrance. Back to entrances. Saint getting a slightly extravagant one, and I
yeah,
basically just go, "Sod this! I'm going to jump, sod this, and just twat him mid
yeah,
entrance."
and like the whole match is just an absolute like you're smashing each other, and I enjoyed writing it because I think Saint's character now, this is him at his like peak, and I've spoke to Dale about it and he's enjoying it. He prefers the character as a heel. I think he suits being a real shithead of a heel. Like, more so than he ever did being a face character. Like I think his face character can be not his fault, but like he can come across as fairly bland. Whereas as a heel, I think he takes on like a whole different dimension. And
Yeah,
especially against somebody like yourself, who is like an out and out baby face. Like,
I think you described me as the Ricky Steamboat of 6CWF.
yeah, exactly. So this is like, Saints like fucking Rick Rude or whatever. Like, and if you wanted to use that analogy with Steamboat, but look, this was a great match. I enjoyed it. Obviously, you kicked each other's heads in, and we had a few false finishes, and
But then
obviously, yeah,
sorry. One of the
we had
things that got me back laughing, I genuinely laughed. I saw it was the trash TV and the golf cart.
yeah, yeah. Look, it's one of them. It popped into my head, and I think there was a couple of reasons for it. One, we were just like doing, it was a show. It was a nostalgic show in some ways, so we were having a few sort of throwbacks, but also Saint. I don't mind saying it, like, and he'll laugh it, but like Saint and the trash TV is, especially Hobo, like they never really got on, and in character or like really in real life. So I feel like it made sense for them to try and cost him the match.
Actually, there is a slight option to this that I can add to this. I don't know if you've forgotten this, but before back decades ago, before I joined Project X, I was with Trash TV.
Well, there you go then.
Yeah, with the producers and all, with the producers mainly. I think I betrayed them to join Project X.
There you go. So yeah, I didn't even know, but there was history to it. There was background.
Yeah, I actually thought you'd remembered that history. And it's just like, oh dear God, this is amazing.
But it was, yeah, look, it was one of them kind of moments where I think, in a very serious match, we just wanted, it was like a little, um, yeah, like a bit of light relief before, the carnage continued. And obviously it really did continue. And
Yeah, I mean, going through tables, just all sorts
there
of.
was a lot of table spots. There was a lot of table spots. And that was a deliberate thing. I think we talked about earlier about a sense of realism. Now, was it realistic? I mean, to some people, it was probably not. But like, you again, professional wrestling, you've got to suspend your disbelief a little bit. You
Yeah, and
know,
then there's also something I might come back onto later. Basically, with it going this far, I mean, I think it was in episode number 2 or 3. You wanted the one with the Dragon and Kincaid and the on the cell.
yeah.
Yeah, you wanted to dial back a little bit. I mean, are you still trying to find that medium point of okay, this is the limit, or in terms of like the ultra violence?
I mean, this was more. Um, I would call this more a sort of a smash mouth kind of match in terms of. I don't think it was overly brutal. Like what I mean by that, obviously, like it's brutal, but it's not. It's not Blue Dragon Logan Kincaid kind of brutal. I think we've still got to, as best as we can. Look, we had obviously in the main event, and we'll get onto that. You've got with Logan, you've got to have some kind of brutality. Like you just think you cannot have that character without. But I'm still trying to steer clear of what we did in the hardcore hell match last year. Like it's a fine line, because you've got to have. We have these matches. You've got a last man standing match. You're gonna have big spots, crazy spots, but yeah, I don't know. You've still got. I think you've got to be careful. I don't. Ultra violent matches are not particularly my forte.
Yeah, I can understand it from that perspective. Yeah.
We did Blue Dragon Logan, and it was very brutal, but like it was physically brutal. I think there's certain things where you know I've seen. like the ultra violent kind of wrestling. I've seen clips on YouTube and stuff, and I just think, I don't know, it's just not really what we want to do. And I don't know, like, I'm all for, like I said, there has to be a semblance of suspending your disbelief in professional
Yeah.
wrestling. But if you've got guys like setting each other on fire and everything like that, and then still winning matches, and I've seen all kinds of weird stuff on YouTube, and I don't think that's what we want to do.
Okay. Like I say, it's just and also I just want to bring up the finish with something a little bit later. It's the fact you've got myself missing a split second through a table or series of tables,
Yeah,
and then basically that just taking myself out.
yeah. That was a purposeful finish in terms of, well, obviously I put tweets out. I've spoke to you about it too.
Yeah.
The idea is that you beat yourself
Yeah, I mean, you even clarified in the commentary afterwards that I've beaten myself.
yeah, and I think that's because obviously I don't believe this feud's done, and we need to continue it. And the idea being that, well, I said to you, like, I always look back at the feud that you had with Cassius. Now, no, we're going back a long time now, but we always come back to it in our discussions because it's one of your highlight points, but I think it's also one of the character's highlight points. And it's a feud that sort of brought a lot out of yourself. And
Yeah,
I think the way it was portrayed even back then was that you got too emotionally invested. Obviously, Cassius used Clarissa, and your emotion is almost what cost you that feud. I'm not talking about like in booking terms. I'm talking about like in the story itself.
yeah.
And I think that's what we're trying to do and trying to tell the story. You know, we did it a few weeks ago when you were talking with Clarissa, when she said to you something along the lines of that you need to put all focus on Saint, and you have to be willing to do things that, you know, you haven't done before. And so there was an element of that in the match. You've tried to obviously take him out big
Yeah,
time, but you've gone too far in terms of he was done. Like the way we were trying to get it across was that like he was in a bad way, and you've decided to climb this ladder and jump up on him. But in reality, had you just done something a lot less risky, you probably would have won the match. You've gone too far in your efforts because he's got under your skin. You really wanted to finish him, and in reality, you didn't need to go that far, and it's ended up costing you.
yeah.
Um,
And just
yeah,
a clarification on this, I don't think it's over either because at the time of recording, I put up a promo yesterday.
yeah.
Yeah, and it's basically saying, "Oh, I well, I know roughly what's happening." So
Look, we did the tweet with, you know, the tweets. I always do the tweets with the pay per views to kind of give you guys a little hint and an idea of where your character's going to be going. And obviously, I've made mention of the fact that 6 CWF officials see at least one more big match in this feud. And I think the promos between yourself and Dale, I think, have been great. And I think there's a chemistry. And it's exactly what I wanted. I said to you, you know, Dale was all for this feud. You know, he pushed it with me as well. We talked about it in messages. And I think it's one of your better feuds. I think it's getting a lot out of your character. It's also getting a lot out of his character. And
hmm,
this is what we want at the end of the day. Like, obviously, we want a competitive Fed, but it's always, for me, it's very satisfying as a booker when you get two guys. Like, you take a gamble, you put two people together and think, you know, let's see what happens. And this one's really worked. Like, for me,
yeah,
it's paid off big time.
I have enjoyed it myself. I mean, I have. I mean, it's just. I mean, a little TLDR. not TLDR, but little backstory. It's a case of I was glad Saint gave me permission to twat him just with that headbutt at one of my last promos. Mainly because it's just like, okay, right. It shows he's got under it. It's a case of, right, I'm willing to do stuff that I would never even consider before because of him.
Yeah, and this is why I think the last man standing stipulation made sense. I think, whatever we've got planned in the future will make sense, because I do think it's one of them feuds now where, if we were to say, "Oh, you're gonna have another match now," and in a few weeks or whenever it is, and it's just a normal singles match, I just don't think that would be enough. It's not enough for either of you. Like, I don't think. Well, say for either of you, I think it's not enough for your character now. Like, if you were to beat him 1, 2, 3, I don't think that's enough. I think it would be for Saint because he thinks he's better anyway, and he's already beat you. So if he's had a normal wrestling match now and he won, like, he'd say, "Well, I told you so." But I think for you, on this kind of willing to do stuff that you've not done before, I think you've got to push the envelope with the finish. I think just pinning him, I just don't think that's enough now.
Yeah, I can. Hang on. No. Sorry about that. Literally to keep. Also, like I say, I mean, the initial feud. I mean, this is the first match and it's last man standing. I mean, going back to a singles match would just be. It would, as I just described it, it's going backwards. But it's a case of, I mean, what else tops a last man standing match?
Well, obviously, again,
from we know what's coming.
yeah. Look, I know the stipulation that we're gonna do, and I think it makes perfect sense. Especially given what we've talked about with the storyline, the sort of hark back, and Saint using your feud with Cassius, which is a big thing when you think about it. Obviously, we put something up when we were doing the history of Night of Glory. I didn't actually realize until I was doing it that Night of Glory 4 was when Saint absolutely brutalized Cassius. And I think that's a massive part of the story, is that the man that you consider like who put you through like the worst moments of your career, like Saint absolutely demolished him. And that in Saint's head, that's like an overconfident, because he's like, well, you were almost terrified in some ways. I'm not saying you were, but like terrified of what Cassius was capable of, and he made Cassius look like nothing. And so he just thinks, well, what are you going to be able to do to him?
Sorry, just was dealing with something. A little brief.
No, you're all right, mate. Do you need to go do something?
No, I'm good. I'm good. Like I say, anyway, back to where we were. But yeah, it's just a case of this feud is not going to end. It's just I'm looking forward to where it goes next and seeing how you would write it, how far it goes next. I mean, Saint's done some pretty despicable things.
Yeah, and this was again through conversations with Dale. This is what he wanted, and this is what we sort of discussed with the Saint, and where we want him to be as a character, in terms of he's always had a lot more fun when Saint's portrayed as a heel. And yeah, you've got to find the balance. You look at the roster and who's face and who's heel, and the characters and how they are portrayed. You don't want everyone obviously to be the same.
Yeah.
And so Saint's way of being evil is different to, say, Logan Kincaid's way of being evil. Logan's are very much like, I'm just going to rip your throat out kind of thing. Whereas Saint likes to play games with people before, like he likes to play with his food before he eats it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which I think that's what I mean. It's always about, I've seen a comment on the chat a couple of days ago from this new fella or whatever, and I can't remember what he's called. Apologies.
Next best.
Yeah, that's the guy. Obviously, welcome to him, and yeah, it's always nice to have new people on the site and in the Fed. So, please drop me a message and we'll have a chat. But he mentioned something about he went through the character sheets and a lot of the characters look similar. Which I mean, I think Lee responded and said, the character sheets only tell part of the story, and that's true. Like if you're looking at them character sheets and you think all the characters in our Fed are the same, like I don't think you could be more wrong. Like all you have to do is read one of our shows to see that we hardly portray any character the same as another. We and not just me, like alongside you guys and the effort and work that you've put in with your characters. We're always looking to make sure there's a uniqueness to every character. And it's not always easy because certain characters have got the same kind of motivations and stuff. But yeah, I think we've got a very diverse kind of roster, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I mean, we've got Japanese stars of JCA. We've got Angus Plague and Udo Berg, which are like 7 foot tall monsters. Cerberus, another 7 foot tall monster. We've got all sorts. I mean, got all sorts of motivations and histories and that. I mean, it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I think I might be repeating what you just said, but literally, the character page is just like, okay, here's the person. It doesn't tell you what they've done, how they plan to do, how they would do things, how they would basically approach different people. I mean, I'd approach Logan different than I'd approach Asa, for example. I wouldn't treat him the same at all.
You've got to look. That wasn't a criticism. Like that's just obviously he might not have read any of the shows yet, and you just look at the character sheets. But the shows tell the story. And obviously there's been a lot of effort put in by everybody over the years, and I'm quite fortunate, obviously being the one writing the shows. I know a lot of the characters. I know a lot of the backstories, which is obviously very helpful when we're writing the shows because I know how to portray the majority and the kind of directions that we look to take them in. Like you said there, just pulling off there about the 7 foot guys, but they're all different in terms of we've got 3 big guys, but Udo Berg's a mercenary, like he's just a gun for hire kind of thing, so that's a completely different.
Cerberus is a complete madman.
Yeah, Cerberus is mad, but again, the work that's been put in recently, I think Ed mentioned it about Matt. The introduction of the Kara character has given Cerberus a completely different dimension now, and we're able to have fun because Cerberus, unlike the other two, Cerberus is somewhat of a face character. Even though he's portrayed as like demonic and evil, he's getting like massive crowd reactions. Like the crowd are behind Cerberus. He's not evil in terms of, obviously just feuded with Genesis, Eddie Kent, and he was the good guy in that feud.
Yeah.
Whereas obviously Berg and Angus Plague are very much heel. But again, the motivations are different, and obviously we're only just scratching the surface with Angus Plague. He's a different character altogether again. So yeah, I mean, like I said, it's easy.
9 as well.
Well, sorry, mate. Go on.
Sorry, isn't Marty Helms like up there in height as well? Isn't he like 6'9"?
I think Marty's only about 6'3", 6'4".
Okay.
But yeah, no. Look. I think we've got a fantastic roster. I think it's the best. Well, it's the best I've ever worked with in terms of depth, consistency. Yeah, without doubt. Like it's. I don't think the Fed, and it's mad to think. We've been doing this 2 years now since the comeback. I actually don't think the Fed's ever been in a better place, and I know how. But like, even when we had 40 plus characters or whatever, like, and going back 2012, 2013, all that kind of time. I actually think the Fed's better now than it ever has been. I genuinely would, I'd risk my reputation on that. I think this is as good as we've ever had it.
And speaking of depth, let's go to our second match, the number one contenders fatal four-way for the tag team championships. Dope and Zero, who I'm going to butcher the names of here, if I can find out where they are. It's Kenji. Is it Kenji Hidari and...
No, Hidari's not come back. He didn't want to bring him back. So we've got Nagami and Yagurama, I believe. They've also got first names, but I'm not going to get into it because
you don't want to offend people.
Do you know what I mean? But
yeah, we've got Wayne Thompson. We've got the Renegades, Wayne Thompson and Dimitri Patel.
Yeah,
I hope I've said that right.
I believe so.
We've got the Siren Boys as well, who have really just been hitting it out of the park, in my opinion.
I agree.
And the Untouchables, who I will admit I've completely forgotten who they are.
It's obviously Gazzy and
Gazzy and
an Angel.
Yeah, Gazzy and Angel. Yep, sorry.
So yes, this match was one. It's a showcase for the tag teams, which is great. The tag team division is looking a lot brighter now, which it's always good for the Fed. I think it's always, and we've got teams that
run match. You've got the depth now to run matches like this.
Yeah, and look, we've got teams that can dip in and out as well to add depth. So there was two main factors to this match, apart from it being a tag team kind of showcase. One, there's no slight on Cable, by the way. I love Dope and Zero, and obviously the Renegade are a new team. We'll look to establish them and stuff like that. But the two real stories of this match is one, the Siren Boys, who fully on board and agree. They're one of the best teams we've had for quite some time. They're completely different to the teams that we've had before.
They're not two people. They're not two singles guys put together.
No, but it's a trio, obviously, with their manager Katie Valentine, and I just think they're just, because it's different, it's a bit unique, and the promos are great. I'm excited. I'm excited for them, and I think they were obviously the deserving winners of this match.
And they're only winners because of, I believe, which might be your second point, Edward Plague is back.
Yeah. So this was the big part of the match, and that's no slight on the other teams, any of the people involved, even the Siren Boys winning. But obviously the main story of the match was the return of Plague to finish the story with Gazzy. And this will be the final battle. We've obviously told the story for it's one of the longest running stories.
Yeah, I mean, I know it's been, I'm trying to think. You've teased him for quite a few months.
Yeah,
just
so there's
appearing in just random matches, because he was in the Beachfront Brawl because he costumed the match there.
Yeah, he was at Born in Fire, and he was also at Day of Reckoning when Gazzy came back. And there's a couple of reasons behind all of that, and obviously like real life reasons. Obviously Gazzy was away for quite some time. He was very busy, so I wasn't willing. I love the story, you see, and I'm very invested, and I've been telling it for a long time, so I wanted the conclusion to be proper, and I wanted both guys involved, and so I feel like now we are in a position for that, whereas we weren't. Also, Liam was busy. He also broke his leg, and he obviously had two other characters in Wood and Perez, and he didn't have the time at the time with Plague. So we put him on the sidelines, which helped because obviously Gazzy wasn't promoing either. And I didn't want Plague to get into a new feud because I just didn't think it made sense. Like, his feud is with Gazzy, and I think until we finish that, we can't, for both of them really, we can't begin to explore any new stories until they're done. Like, they need to be
Yeah.
done, and then we move forward. So that was obviously the main part, and obviously I think in a live show, that would be the moment that stuck out for everybody. Would be the return of Plague.
Okay. Then a quick question for you then.
Yep.
All things go well. Liam doesn't break his leg. Gazzy doesn't have real life to contend with.
Yep.
When would this Gazzy and Plague thing have ended in your ideal world?
It would have ended at World's End. That was when it was supposed to end, which I think was January.
Okay.
So what initially was supposed to happen was the Born in Fire match, which I believe was for the EWF title, was Gazzy. There was Daniel Riley was defending against Gazzy. I think Jeff and Dicey, and because Gazzy had dipped out at that time because he was busy. We ended up running an injury angle. But what was supposed to happen in that match was Riley was supposed to retain when Plague returned and
Okay.
cost Gazzy the match, and then we would have done. So we're about what we're going to be 6 months at least past where it was supposed to finish. But I'm glad because at the time, we could have told the best match. We could have wrote the best match and told the best story, but neither guy would have been overly active, and I just don't think that was right.
Yeah, I completely support the decision. I mean, if in order for the story to be perfect, you need both participants, both participants to be fully up and running.
Yeah, for a story like this, that we've all, not just myself, but Liam and Gazzy, there's been so much investment in it and so much effort and time that I think it's only right. And also, I think in hindsight, looking at what we did at World's End, and we did the Liam Wood Thunder cinematic match and stuff like that, I never wanted Gazzy and Plague to get sort of lost in the shuffle of lots of other things, because it's such an important story for both characters that it deserves to have the right platform in order for us to finish.
Yeah. Then, Edward and Gazzy will be going at it in probably some sort of step, or is it? I mean, I don't think a one v just a standard singles match would cover it.
I think we've got something in play, but yes, it won't be a standard one-on-one match. Like you said, I don't think that really makes sense for their story. But that will finish at the next pay-per-view, which is Scars and Stripes. That's where we'll bring it to an end.
Okay. And then we get a little bit of we get another celebrity appearing, and interacting with the Saint briefly.
Yeah, I was just doing it. I just think a lot of these things kind of make sense in terms of, obviously, they're just little bits. They're just little tidbits. They're nothing really. In my head, I just think I'm giving everybody little bits to use for their character potentially, if you want to. Obviously, we say that our show is screened on Amazon Prime, and obviously the Reacher program is on Amazon Prime. So I think, again, through affiliation, we would probably, and given that we're portrayed as the sort of lead and light of professional wrestling, I think it would make sense that there would be some collaborations between the programs, films, etc. on Prime and our superstars.
Yeah, in that case, then I'm expecting to see somebody show up on Clarkson's farm.
Yeah, well, exactly. Do you know what I mean? Like, you can milk a cow or something,
Thanks.
and it's one of them, innit? Do you know, like, I just think it's a little bit like that. Like I said, nobody has to use them in their promos or anything, but I was thinking of little things as I was just writing it. Like, these segments were more on the fly. They weren't any great thought process. I didn't have that set up beforehand. I was just writing the show. I had all the matches wrote, and I'm like, I need some segments. What can we do? and these were just little bits, really.
Yeah, you just need stuff to break up because going match. I get why they're there. Like say, and it's up to who they interact with to utilize them. So, like say, Saint could just I don't know fight Jack Reacher randomly
Yeah,
backstage.
that's what I mean. If you guys want to use them in your promos, crack on, but you just don't have to. It's just, like you said, a lot of it is we're just breaking up. I just don't want to post like 3 matches back to back or whatever. Like we're just having a few little bits in between.
And then we get a preview back to Born in was it Born in 5-5? Night of Glory 5.
Night Glory
I
5,
guess
yeah, I
Born in
think.
Fire. Yeah, we get a showcase of the match there. Then we follow into Ted.
Yeah. Yeah, this was one of my favourite. I enjoyed writing that. It's just
Yeah,
taking really, because obviously Patrick's is from Boston, and so
yeah, I'm just. But then we get then we get into Chris Patrick's versus Marty Helms.
yeah.
Which I was surprised this was just a singles, was just a one-on-one match. But on the other hand, if it's all like matches, all like specialty matches and all that, I can see where it can get a bit overwhelming.
I just didn't think I think we had this discussion when we were coming up to Night of Glory, and we had all the matches announced, and we obviously were doing the 3-day, 3-day event, and I think there was three stipulation matches. Obviously, there was the Chamber, there was the Last Man Standing, and there was the casket match. And I think for me, it was we put them all on separate nights to sort of let it breathe a little bit.
Well, technically, there's 4.
Well, especially because obviously the Max Logan, what I knew was going to happen in that match, and obviously the change of stipulation, but also the way it went down. I thought, Patrick's and Helms. I think this was just for me. This would have been, if I was watching this on a real life pay-per-view, this would have been like one of them kind of sleeper matches. Like, I don't think there would have been an over expectation of what it was going to do, but I think it delivered. And I think both of those characters, when I was writing it, they actually gelled really well together.
Yeah, I can see that. One thing, I mean, I know I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but the ending of it, I'm surprised you've done basically the same finish in the same night with 2 matches.
Yeah, I mean, it was similar to your finish, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm surprised you've done that.
I mean, yeah, it's one of them where I was kind of. We could have gone with something different, I guess, in terms of. It's kind of what sprung to mind at the time. The idea being more so, we could have used maybe different weapons or different whatever, but the idea was that obviously Patrick's is in a moral dilemma, and he's so desperate to win that he's obviously tried to cheat to win, to stay in Andrew's good books, and it hasn't worked. But I see what you're saying. In reality, it's like I said, hindsight's always fantastic. We maybe could have altered that slightly. The finish would have still been the same. The idea was and would have always been that his attempt to break the rules backfired. Like I said, we could have maybe done something a little bit different on reflection.
Yeah, like I say, I just noticed it and I thought I'd bring it up. That's all.
No. It's one of them. Like, we don't always get it perfect, but like I said, the story for me and the finish was correct in terms of how it went down. Maybe it could have been slightly varied, because I'm not a big fan of similar finishes, and obviously we did have quite a similar finish.
Yeah, And then where does I mean, I'm assuming this might be covered in Aftermath, but where does Marty go from here?
Well, obviously, yes, what's happening the rest of the show and night 3 kind of gives a little bit of an indication. Aftermath will give a bigger indication, and
Yeah,
it will become pretty clear pretty quickly on Aftermath of where we're going. I mean, I think personally, I know I'm the booker, so it's easy for me to say, but I think it's fairly obvious where it's going. Um, you'll all obviously have to wait and see. You've all probably got a different idea, but if I was looking into it, I think it's fairly obvious where we go next.
well, obviously it's fairly obvious to you because you've written it. But like I
Well,
say,
no,
it's
yeah,
nice.
no, that's what
It's
I mean.
nice. It's
That's
nice
what I'm
to
saying.
see. It's nice to see that. So, I mean, so many varied opinions of where people could go next,
Well,
what
this
could
is
happen.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah, I love that. I love that, and this is what I said about obviously I'm doing seasons now, and I like breaking it up into seasons. And I think the idea that obviously we're moving into a new season and we have a lot of directions for people to travel in. And yes, there will be the continuation of one or two stories from Night of Glory, but we also have opened it out so that we're going to get some fresh things as well.
yeah, and I completely understand. I mean, also we see Also, we're going to see Patrick's later on, I believe.
Yes, the main event obviously is the big one,
Yeah,
and a complete and utter. This is what I was saying about night 1 with the dicey, the go home, happy go home moment and that, and night 2 had a and was purposeful, had a very different vibe to it, starting off with your match, but especially the main event, it was a lot darker, and that was obviously a purposeful decision that we had to tell a different story.
yeah. Who? Well, following on from that, I mean, we got the Sabrina We got a Sabrina Carpenter bit with Miss Jessica.
Um,
No, that's later. Sorry, that's a little bit
that's night
later.
3.
Yeah, but
Uh,
I mean, Sabrina Carpenter. I mean, I know it's a celebrity appearance and all that, but jumping ahead to night 3 briefly, who decided that? Was that all you? Was that you and Ed?
which what? Well, look, it's obviously the final decisions are mine in terms of what we do, but Ed obviously we did the Sabrina Carpenter thing, and Ed's like jumped on it, and he's done all the tweets, and he does like the background, and he always hints at it, and I'm happy to go with these things in terms of I think it kind of makes sense in some ways. Obviously, we've got an affiliation, if you want to call it that, off camera between Kent and Sabrina Carpenter, which we then bring into the live shows in one way or another
Yeah,
because she's an ambassador to the company. Um, and obviously then, but in storyline, obviously Miss Jessica is infatuated with Kent, and we've never. The thing is that if you actually read between the promos and the stories, we've kind of never, or it's never been sort of clarified that they're together, like Kent and Jessica. Like it's never ever been mentioned that they're an actual couple.
it's an association.
Yeah, like some people may think they are, but for me, it's almost like I don't know. We've never said that they are.
You're you're
So
letting you're letting people take their own views on it in their own ways.
yeah. Well, I mean, look, it's like Miss Jessica's obviously the part of what we do, and obviously Ed's done this too. And I think he's watched a fair few of the same kind of programs as me. I don't know if you've ever watched The Boys on Amazon, but obviously he's taken Miss Jessica in terms of the character Firecracker, and he's very much Homelander. Now, in that program, without giving too much away, she's very infatuated with him, Homelander, but he isn't physically interested in her whatsoever. And that's
So
the
it's
kind of dynamic that we're giving off. Like, it was the same when she was with, if you remember, when she was with Cassius many
yeah, I
years
remember
ago.
that.
Yeah, like she was infatuated with him, but he was almost presented as like almost fucking asexual or whatever. Like he just wasn't interested in anybody or anything like that. So yeah, I think it's one of them again. We're playing on a celebrity idea. It's never going to. We're never going to take it over in terms of. I don't foresee us actually ever doing like a Miss Jessica Sabrina Carpenter match or anything like that. Like I know if it was WWE, they would, but
Or 2008.
yeah, I just don't. I don't foresee us doing that personally.
Your hatred of the Honeys division still runs strong, I see.
Well, look, no, but like we did the women's match, didn't we? A few weeks ago, we did the first one in CWF. We did Miss Jessica, and we did against Cara, and I actually enjoyed writing it, and I presented the two characters really well and strong. And there will be scope for some women's matches and involvement going forward without
Yeah,
giving too much away. But
like I say,
it won't be that. It won't be that.
like I say, I'm not. For basic clarification, the 2008 Honeys division was a complete mess.
Oh, it was a
Uh,
clusterfuck, wasn't it? Look, do you know what I mean? Like it
yeah,
was, it was dreadful overall. I don't want to waste too much time on it, but look, there was me. I had Brandy. Marky had Xanthi. They were by far and away the two best characters, the two best promos because we actually did promo with our characters. And the story, most of the limelight ended up getting put on characters like fucking River Race's characters, and I'd rather just not get into it because it could have been a lot better than it was, and it was shit.
point I'm clarifying is you will not bring in there will not be celebrities brought in, built up, like temporarily built up, and then just let go on a whim in a women's match.
No, we're not going to do anything. We're not. I don't even think we'll ever do celebrity matches personally. The scope's like, don't get me wrong, if somebody drops me a line or whatever and they've got an idea and it was something they wanted to do for a month or I'd certainly be willing to have a discussion about it, but I won't be introducing anything like that myself.
Okay. In that case, then, after the Sabrina Carpenter introduction, we have a flashback to Night of Glory 6.
Yeah, and then
And then we get the news. The news, basically, that the final match of the night is going to be No Holds Barred.
Yeah, and I kind of went on to something a bit new here, and I've actually really enjoyed it. I did the same on night 3. This kind of idea that we've just got that Casey Tucker backstage, and she's basically just delivering news, and I think it's quite an interesting concept that I think might continue.
It kind of reminds me, and this is not a knock on it, by the way. It kind of reminds me like a reason to watch Sunday Night Heat back in the Attitude Era.
That's what I mean. Like, I just think it's instead of doing the same kind of backstage interviews, and I think it makes sense that we've got like a reporter. It's the same. Like, obviously, I'm a big boxing fan, and it happens a lot at boxing events. You'll have like a backstage reporter who will fill you in on details of stuff that's the prep and all that without actually interviewing anybody. I think it's an interesting dynamic. I quite liked it. It wasn't pre-planned, but once I got into it, I thought it kind of made sense.
Yeah, and it does. I mean, it's like Casey took it. I think the closest example might be Lee Marshall, if you remember him from
Not,
WCW.
it doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, he used to do like little backstage stuff like this. On a random side note, he voiced Tony the Tiger.
All right, fair enough then. Yeah, sound.
Yeah, it just reminds me of stuff like that. I mean, they would just give like little scoops of more information.
Yeah, it's almost like a bit bringing the, like the tweets that I do from like Wrestling Insider. It's almost like kind of bringing that to life on the live show.
Yeah,
She's basically giving you backstage updates and without having to show you exactly what's happening, she's just telling you what's happening, which is interesting sometimes because I think it's sometimes better to not see what's happening. Sometimes you write a segment and you show a scene backstage, and you think that gives a lot. Like sometimes you don't want to show the audience everything, but if she's telling you what's happened, you can kind of paint your own image in your own head.
Yeah. And then we got to the main event itself, which is Max Adamson's entrance with dancers.
I mean,
And
that was Marky's entrance. It's what he wanted to do. So happy days.
then we get to the match itself, and yeah,
Look, it was an absolute. It was the way it was supposed to be in terms of we started fast, and I think that made sense. We had a lot of early finishes used and a lot of near falls. And I think that really did make sense. I mean, I know it's easy for me to say, and I'm justifying my own writing, but I think Max has been out the ring for a year. You know, you can train as much as you want, but there's no substitute for real sort of experience or being in the ring. And he's fighting a guy who's a fucking lunatic. So instead of trying to feel him out, he's just gone for it.
yeah, he's basically gone straight for the kill shot straight away.
Yeah, and I think then we use that as the platform to build from there. And I think for me, like I said, this match, well, I really enjoyed this match, and I think it did its job. Which it had a couple of jobs, obviously. One was to make Logan look like an absolute monster.
Yeah, I think he did that with the handful of. I think he did that perfectly fine with the handful of glass.
Yeah, and the whole match was designed well. It wasn't all designed, but a lot of it was designed to get Logan back into the main event. I'm not saying he's ever really been away from it, but this was like right, he's fucking right there now. Like he's knocking. Well, he's not knocking on the door. He's smashing the door down. It
Yeah,
also showed what Max is capable of, and it obviously told the story, the final nail in the coffin of Chris Patrick's betrayal of Max.
yeah. Like I
Which
say,
was obviously the big finish.
yeah, obviously, I don't think Logan ever left like the main event. It's basically just he never lost his place in line. He just stepped away for a little bit.
Yeah. I think what I'm trying to get at is that obviously over the last few months we've done the whole Four Kings, and them guys have been phenomenal. And I know we'll talk about that more coming up, but they've been phenomenal, and they all deserve that place. But I'm looking, obviously, we've got a new season coming up, and you've got to start to get people in certain positions. So Logan, for me, had to be put back right at the pinnacle now.
Yeah,
And this was again, Max Adamson is retired, but he's not, and obviously it's a kind of WrestleMania event, so you always get your big stars, and he was a huge name. Obviously, made sense storyline wise, but also I think it was just a great mesh of characters, Logan and Max.
yeah. I mean, considering how well they both work together, I mean, obviously we saw it with Rex as well, but it's nice. I mean, from a character perspective, is Max done?
No.
Okay,
Uh,
in the ring. I'm in the ring. I mean,
no.
okay, that's
I put this in. Obviously, it was in a tweet that I put after the match. I obviously not going to give too much away. Bit like obviously we were discussing earlier about people being off screen, etc. Max is going to have to be off screen now for a considerable amount of time, given the end of the match and what happened to him. It wouldn't really make sense, would it, if he just fucking bounced out on a kangaroo on Aftermath and started,
Yeah.
like everything's sound and, but I think going back to, last year and the retirement of the character, that was me. Like, I've discussed this before, but that was all me. Like, Marky never said he wanted to retire Max. I didn't really give him an option. It was just a storyline that made sense at the time. Was that we retire Max, and it obviously was a massive boost, not only for Eddie Kent's character, but it helped to really ramp up the Rex Kent story. But Max is obviously not that old. Like, he's not really supposed to be that old. I think he'd still be in very, very good shape. And whilst Marky's running with Rex as his main character now, I think we've got the opening where we definitely can use Max on the big pay-per-views. Like, I'm not saying he's not going to return ever, I don't think, unless Marky wants him to, but I don't foresee him returning as an active character throughout the year. But I think
So,
with what's happened here at Night of Glory, there's definitely scope for him to have a match, at least one more.
well, so basically, he might become the equivalent of our Undertaker.
Yeah, and I think that's fair in terms of, I've said it before, I've said it in storyline, I've said it on here. Max Adamson, he's the greatest, and I think he's the greatest. I think he
Mhm.
would be acknowledged by many as the greatest character.
I also like, literally, I'm just on the tweet section. I also like his reply.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean,
no, it was good. It was good, and that's what I mean. I think this match it had a lot of facets to it. It had a lot of sort of directions. This was putting a lot of things in place. Not only was it obviously a very brutal match, but it was serving a lot of purposes. One was obviously Logan. Two was the Patrick's Max story, but also the Civil War story. The ending with Rex like
yeah,
running out. Um,
holding Max while he
yeah,
he's
and there's
alive.
reasons. Obviously, some of it you'll see in Night 3, but there was reasons obviously behind the majority of what happened.
Yeah. On a slight off tangent note, I mean, considering the last time we did this, the matches were all pretty. I think like majority of them were obvious to call. I mean, this Night of Glory is a complete contrast to that. It's a case of looking through the predictions. We had so many different winners and all that. I mean,
Yeah,
so
it
many
was
different
great,
winners.
wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just like we had no idea where anyone was going. I mean, this is going to sound like a stupid question, but do you prefer it when it's like that, or do you
Yeah.
prefer it when it's just like, okay, here's the steps we basically go, here's the steps I'm taking, here's what might happen.
I prefer what we had at Night of Glory personally. I think what I will say is there's always going to be times when certain matches are obvious. Like, I'm not going to swerve you for swerve sense. Like, I'm not going to just give you like a pay per view full of Russo style finishes just because you all thought one thing was going to happen. So I'm going to make it different just to spite everybody. There will be times when there's storylines that are very obvious, and that doesn't matter. Like, it's the quality of the story. And I believe that wholeheartedly. Like, it was obvious, I think, at Day of Reckoning, it was obvious that Asa was going to beat JJ to become champion, but that doesn't detract from how good the story was. Um, I think we will always have that. We will always have times when certain matches and certain outcomes are obvious. Like, there's nothing I can do about that. It's this. You watch anything. You watch a TV program. You watch a film. You watch WWE, whatever wrestling promotion. There's always going to be times when everyone knows what's going to happen. That doesn't make it a bad story. Not every story has to be, "Oh, I didn't see that coming." Like, that shouldn't matter. But on the other hand, it was great, and I think I made comment of it with Night of Glory. We stuck up I think Ed put the prediction thread up when I started to see the predictions, and I thought, oh, we not just me, but everybody, because it is a team effort. It doesn't matter who writes the shows. The shows are off the back of everyone's participation and commitment. But I thought this is proof that everyone's done a phenomenal job, because we've got 11 matches or something over the 3 nights, and I think the closest anybody got was 8 out of the 11, which was really good going, actually. I think that was Saint. He did well. But the majority of people got about 5 or 6, and they were different results, though. They weren't the same ones that everyone got right. And I thought, that's great, because that goes to show how competitive we are now as a Fed, because so many of them matches were so hard to predict. And there was a lot of them, as I've already alluded to, the ones we've discussed, they could have gone in different directions, and I could have booked them in different ways. I think nearly every match we've talked about could have had, night 1, Harris could have easily won the chamber. I don't think anybody would have disputed that whatsoever. Obviously, everyone knew JCA was going to win. That was a given. I think the majority of people thought Angus Plague was going to retain. I think 1 or 2 predicted Riley. I think 1 predicted Jack. But most thought Plague. And I think the main event, most probably picked Dicey off the back of they didn't think that I would book myself to win that match. But I think storyline wise, it would have made sense if JJ went over. Same with night 2. I think a lot of people predicted you to win, and we could have booked it that way. We really could have. I teetered with the idea. I just thought, because I knew there was more to come from the feud, it made more sense for Saint to win that. But the tag team match.
Actually, I think most predicted Saint to win.
Oh, did they? Well,
It was 50. It's close to 50-50-ish, though.
Yeah, the tag team match, I think the majority probably did pick the Siren Boys. They've been knocking it out the park, but had Cable returned a little earlier, and Dope Hand Zero, I think, would have been a real shoe-in. Match 3 easily could have had Patrick's win that, by cheating. And main event, I think there were a couple that actually thought Max might win, and again, there are ways in which we could have had Max win and still told the stories that we needed to tell. I think, and obviously the same when we move on to, and I think we're about to move on to night 3. I think all 3 matches, many people got this wrong. Like all 3 of them, people got these wrong.
Yep, we are about to go into night 3, and we open with Sabrina Carpenter and Miss Jessica interaction I alluded to earlier.
Yeah, and this was just the culmination. Obviously, it's just about getting Jessica. Jessica, obviously, as is probably quite obvious from the last show before the pay-per-view and moving forward, is going to have a very big role to play going forward. And this was just one of them where we make her look strong and vindictive, and like I said, that this is going to start to play out a lot more.
She wants her to be more threatening than she actually was at the current time.
Yeah.
Then we've got a preview to Night of Glory 7.
Yep.
Then we go into the honestly the surprise result of the night for me, the casket match between Cerberus and Eddie Kent.
Well, this is what I mean about predictions. I think only 2 people or something predicted Cerberus to win. And I mean, look, you've got to look. We got over 45, 46 promos or something, and 5 or 6 of them were Cerberus promos, and Matt was phenomenal. And it doesn't just go off that. We've talked about this before. There's a lot of different ways in which we decide results, but I'm a big Cerberus fan. Always have been, which probably told with his world title reigns, etc. And I think again, we're talking about obvious storytelling, but what makes sense. You've got to look at it in the terms of, yes, Eddie Kent's a massive character. We love Kent. We love Ed. You know, his commitment and his passion is probably unrivaled from most people. And, you know, he's always going to be booked and has been booked strong, you know, the longest reigning world champ, etc., etc. But
Yeah.
we had to draw this to an end, this feud. And the in my head, the best way to end the feud was by Cerberus winning, because if Kent wins this match, well, where does Cerberus go from there? Like, because he's pursuing revenge on Kent. So if he loses, well, he's not just going to give up, is he? Like, he's going to want
No.
more revenge. So we're going to have to carry the storyline on. Whereas this was the best way to bring it to a close. It sets Cerberus up beautifully for the new season, makes him look strong, but it also puts Kent in a very vindictive frame of mind, which again, come Aftermath, will make a lot of sense with the storylines that are about to happen.
Now you mentioned that. I mean, think about it from the other perspective. If Eddie Kent had have won, where does he go from here? I mean, you've got this. I mean, I'm just imagining 60W off as a tree a tree right now. I think you've got the top end super stacked that I don't think he gets away in.
But
That's painful for him.
Well, the thing is, if we book Kent to win this match, in my head, he has to be probably next in line for a world title shot, okay? Because of his history, because this is the big feud. And so we have to then find a way for Eddie Kent to almost bypass everybody else. And I'm not saying it's not doable. Anything's doable, but we have to bypass nearly everybody else and put him in the main event. And for what or everything else that happens later on in the night, that doesn't it wouldn't work, and not in my head. And but also, obviously, I know what's happening and I know what's to come. Eddie Kent losing this match, from a storyline perspective, is the most logical result, and that will become, again, this is me telling you things because I obviously know where it's going. It will make a lot more sense when we do the next show. Because him winning, like, he comes out, he wins this match, he comes out on the next episode of, you know, on Aftermath, and he's smug and he's happy. So where do you take him from there apart from a title? Because that's the next logical step. There's no feud based off the back of that. Whereas an angry, upset, vindictive Eddie Kent, we can build so many storylines off of the back of that.
I mean, let's have a look at the thing right now. I mean, this is just purely from my personal perspective and not factoring in anyone else at the minute. Saint's got a good shout at being number one. Saint's got a good thing to be number one contender. Obviously, with this, Cerberus would have one. You've also got the winner. Well, you've also got the other three kings that still have a shot at being number one. You've got Dicey. Yep. You might have a good shot at number one contender.
Yep.
Obviously, Jeff Steele has got a good shot at number one contender, even though he has a briefcase. But you see where I'm getting with this? I mean, where do you stack everyone up?
Well, this is what I'm saying to you. Like,
going, who's next?
Well, this is obviously. We can talk about it now. We talk about it now, whether we talk about it after.
Okay.
The Night of Glory, but so this is where we're at now as a Fed, because we've made the conscious decision to put all the 4 world titles together. Okay, so your main event scene, whilst it becomes your world champion, your undisputed world champion, is extremely legitimate, and they are the pinnacle because they've won all 4 world titles. You have narrowed the main event now because we've only got one title. Okay, so regardless of obviously at Scars and Stripes, we're going to have the hour match. We've announced that, and it's going to be multi-man. So we've got 6 other guys who are going to get the chance to challenge for the title, but there's only one. So whereas in previous shows, the last however many pay-per-views we've had, 4 or 5 pay-per-views, we've almost had 4 world titles that people can go after. So it's easy to put people in certain places, and that's going to be difficult going forward. It's going to be more difficult than it ever has been, and I think obviously that's for me to find a way to make that work, because now you've got such a stacked roster, like you've said, such a stacked main event full of very, very talented people. But there's only room for a couple of them really at one time. So, and because when you think about it, we have the shows every sort of 10, 11 days, and we have the pay-per-views. We only have like 6 pay-per-views per calendar year, really, give or take. It's finding ways to ensure that people get their opportunity. And that's a dilemma for me going forward, because I obviously made the decision to have one world title. And so, yeah, it's a booking, not nightmare, because I'm looking forward to it, but it presents a bigger sort of decision-making process now.
I mean,
Where we didn't have that.
at the moment it seems like you are basically you are juggling, and it could be just like you're just juggling glass bottles of personalities at the minute. I mean, with everyone who's possibly can see themselves up at that level and who have been at that level a long time, it's a case of I'm intrigued to see how you gently put the bottles down so that basically you cool them off, but you still keep them warm enough to basically go, oh, right, here's a contender that can potentially do it.
Yeah, look, I think we've had, I'm not naming names or calling anyone out, and I don't mean this in it. It's not, I've not had any, like sort of urgent PMs or anything like that. I don't mean like that. I've not had anybody overly complaining, about anything. And I've obviously made that clear on previous podcasts that we've done that. Like, I'm not in the business for that anymore. We're a lot more grown up now, and sometimes you've got to swallow it. Like, you're not going to get booked to win every match or every feud or anything like that. Like, and if you don't like the results, I'm more than happy to have discussions with people. This is not me saying don't reach out to me because I don't want to know, because I do. Like, I'll always chat and I'll always try to explain why things happen. But obviously, there are times when people, even over the last couple of years, have potentially questioned like the direction or why they're not in certain positions, and that might increase going forward because we've got one world title and potentially we've got a lot of guys, like a lot. I mean, probably double figures guys who not only are capable but probably think themselves worthy of being the champion, the main champion, and so yes, it is maybe a juggling act. My job, and what I always stress, is that I'm trying to tell stories, and that's the biggest thing that I like. From my perspective, if I wasn't booking, I'm not as bothered about the titles as being involved in something engaging. So that's my job now, is to find ways in which, when particular characters aren't involved in the world title scene, we have to create engaging storylines for them. And I think obviously I have an outline of, I have a card for the next pay per view. I know where we're going, and I have a faint outline of Beachfront Brawl. So we're kind of now trying to find ways in which we can ensure everyone is enjoying it, because not everyone can be the champ.
Yeah, I completely understand that.
And this was always going to. I mean, I knew this. I've been sort of, like I said, when we came back in 2023, I had an idea in my head that I would like to sort of bring the world titles together and have one world champion. But having one world champion on paper is a fantastic idea, because he's a legitimate champ. Like, he is the guy, and I'm a big advocate of that. But it shrinks because not every pay-per-view, like, just to appease everyone, you can't have multi-man matches every pay-per-view for the world title, because it dilutes it. You know, you want to have some really good one-on-one feuds for, like, your world title to add prestige and that. So if you think about it, if we have a pay-per-view where we have a 1v1 match, and I think currently we're tracking it character-wise, I'm not talking about people-wise, but character-wise, I think we're up to about 35, give or take, characters currently as it is. And if you have a 1v1 match for your world title, there's 33 characters that can't be involved for the world title. And I'd say at least half of them at any one time could have a legitimate claim to also be in that world title match. So you've potentially got 15 characters who feel they should be doing a lot better than where they are. So then you have to create something that keeps them interested, because it could be, it could be a year. It could be a year before you get your chance now. Like, that's just where we're at. And that's a difficult position for me to be in. But I don't want to backtrack and go, we've had this massive storyline to unify all the 4 world titles, and then go, but then we'll just introduce another world title, because it kind of defeats the object of the concept we've just done.
Yeah, and I think one of the questions we got asked by one of the people earlier in, like, podcast, I think it was podcast 3, you were on the fence about adding another one in the possible future, I believe.
And obviously, I will be putting up a tweet probably next few days. I think the time has come, especially off the back of Night of Glory, where we will have to introduce another title. Obviously won't be a world title, but we are going to have to, I think, bring one more in. Given the size now of the roster and the competitiveness, I think it makes sense now for where we are to bring one more.
What about, this is me just randomly throwing something out. What about how the old Intercontinental used to be treated as? It's like, okay, actually, no, scratch that. It was WCW that did it with the US. Basically, that person was considered the number 1 contender to the world if they held the US.
Yeah, and I think a concept that I want to bring in going forward, and we'll talk about this maybe, or we'll sort of approach the idea on Aftermath, is you've got Scott Harris, who's the European champion, and the European Championship has been massive since we brought it back. Obviously, Riley had it he broke the record, and Dicey had it, and then Perfect Jack and Scott Harris. So you think about them 4 people that have had it since it came back. They're massive names. So I think we've brought a lot of prestige to that title. And I think what I'm looking at, that concept that they had, I don't know if they still have it. Is it TNA? Where you can basically trade your title for
option C.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that was only done at Destination X, as if I'm right.
Yeah, I like that concept. I think I think the way I would do it, I don't know how TNA did it. I think you would have to have had a certain number of defenses. Like, you couldn't just win, say, the European title and then the same night go, "Oh, you can have it back and I want the world title." Like, I think you'd have to defend it and show that you defended it.
I believe you have to do, I think it's 1 defense, and it was
maybe
all the
more
matches
for me.
and all the matches basically it was all at Destination X, which was one of the pay-per-views. So it was
Right.
like a Destination X exclusive kind of thing.
I think it's a good option, but I think the champion who does it would have to. One defense wouldn't be enough for me. I think a
Oh,
minimum, like maybe three.
I've got no. The NWA did something with this. I think they had 10 defenses, and then they
Yeah,
traded it in at any time.
that's what I mean. I think I can get on board with that because I think you've basically shown that you know you're ready because you beat all comers at the sort of mid range, and there's only one sort of avenue for you, which is to step up after that. I do kind of like that concept, and I think it makes sense, especially with how competitive our roster is going to be now. When you think about it, we've probably got 12 plus main eventers. Like, it is very main event heavy, and you've got to find a way to make sure that them characters have got something going on that
Yeah,
is obviously intriguing to them and entertaining. And so, yeah, I mean, look, it's a good headache to have because, like I said, the roster's stacked, and you want a stacked roster. I never thought we'd have this, but we do.
you've just got to be wary of just keeping the balancing act up, though.
Yeah, of
That's
course,
all.
yeah, and it's hard. It is hard. It's hard now. It's hard enough now. It was hard enough, you know. It's hard enough picking up. We'll get on. We're on to night 3 now, aren't we? So we'll get to the main event. You know,
Yeah, like I
that's
said,
one of the biggest headaches I've ever had. But yeah,
uh, also we're going on. Well, speaking of night 3, let's go on to the second match of the 6CWF Tag Team Championship match with the Agents of Chaos versus the TA.
I think everyone got this wrong. I don't know if
Yes,
anybody got this right. Um, the thing is that the result was sort of forced upon me.
I was wondering about this because I know you mentioned in the tweet about an undisclosed injury.
Well,
If you wouldn't mind just elaborating a little more on that.
so where we're at currently is that obviously we got the 2 new guys in Enigma and Solomon Noir, and Solomon hasn't been on the board since the 1st of April, which obviously is a cause for concern. Not just, I don't just mean for the Fed. Obviously, I hope that the bloke's all right because I've tried to reach out to him, and I know Enigma has too, and we've had nothing back. So obviously, our well wishes go out, and I do hope everything's okay. He obviously hit the ground running, and both of them did, and were fantastic additions. And obviously, we made that decision to sort of push them quick into one of the main storylines, put the tag titles on them, and obviously, it's kind of backfired in that Noir's not around at the minute. So I've been talking with Enigma, and obviously, I feel bad for the guy because he's blasting it out with these promos, and his partner's not around, and so he's kind of, "Oh, what do I do? What do?" And I've tried to give, and I've said about real life coming first, and of course it always does, but there has to come a point where, as a Fed, we have to make a decision, especially when titles are involved, because can't really keep titles on people when they're not around. For
Yeah,
um, and Enigma was fine with it. He kind of suggested it. We kind of had a conversation where it was like, we need to move on from this, and obviously let him go back to being. We can explore him as a singles competitor and keep him obviously with Damien Andrews. But this result probably nothing against. I love the TA, and we've obviously portrayed them as the greatest tag team that we've had, and this win obviously solidifies that. And so, they always had a chance of winning because Marky, obviously, great promo, and they're great characters. But the result was never in doubt after a certain point because, like I said, Solomon's not been on the
which
board since 1st of April, so it's like what 6-7 weeks now.
yeah, the switch had to be flipped.
and I tried to hold off on it and stuff, and obviously give people time to come back, whatever. Because, like I said, real life take precedent, and he could be busy, but I've got to think about the Fed in terms of not just Marky throwing as the TA, but I'm looking at the other tag teams, looking at the Siren Boys. Obviously, Cable's brought his teams in, and I'm thinking that division is ready to flourish, in my opinion, and we can't really keep the titles on somebody that isn't promoing when we've got a lot of teams.
Yeah, I completely understand that, and I mean, it was just a surprise. But after hearing the explanations, like, okay, yep, we get it.
Yeah, and look, I think fortunately, from a storyline perspective, it makes sense because obviously we've got the Civil War going on. So it's the TA sort of getting one back from Max after night 2.
Yeah.
And obviously what is to come in the main event. Yeah. They needed something. I think that side they needed a win. And I think that was an important one.
Yeah, I can understand that. Afterwards we get I'm trying to think, what was the comments? I think I know there was something about this. Sorry, just reading Casey Tucker update after following the match.
Yeah, that was just about like the no interference in the main event.
Without permission.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then obviously we get Night of Glory 9.
Yeah.
And then we go on to the main event. Now, before we start this, why I've got to in the build up. Why Hero? Why was Hero the guy put in charge of these four?
Because obviously Hero's a great character. We all know that. Those of us that have been around for a long time know that he's a massive star, a massive part of the Fed. Obviously, Rich, the guy behind is the reason that we're on V2. He set it up. He designed it. So in some ways, we wouldn't exist without him, because we didn't have a home after they closed 606 down. I obviously have approached him in the past about coming back, and he doesn't want to, and that's fine. That's not an issue. That's absolutely how it is. But for me, Hero is one of the main stars, if you will, that we've ever had, and he is the last undisputed world championship that we had. He won. Obviously, there was an element of that to it, because obviously he knows what it takes and kind of getting everybody ready, but also obviously with things to come and his history with certain characters, including Miss Jessica. It was again, it was that was a big reason for it, was his history with Jessica. Which obviously we hinted at with the stuff with their son and stuff, but obviously it also was hinted at potentially with the attack that took place and seeing somebody with red hair walking away from the crime scene. I mean, you do the math, but you can kind of see maybe she was involved, maybe she wasn't, but
maybe.
Yeah.
With
and
you, we
obviously,
never know who was involved.
No, and this is one of them.
That's a good thing.
So yeah, it's one of them. Hero was just not a stopgap, but like there was a facet to the story. He was never going to be like a long. The avenue was there to keep him around long term, but it's not really where we're going with the storyline at the minute. So, but he played a vital part to get us to where we need to be.
All right, I just want to. I mean, so anyone else of that stature could have been in that role, or was it?
I don't think so. Really,
Okay.
I don't think so.
Then we get to the absolute chaos. It's the Four Kings match. Asa
look,
versus Blue Dragon. Sorry.
no, go on.
Oh, Asa versus Blue Dragon versus Liam Wood, who won the Gateway to Glory, and Rex against Rex and Rex. Can't speak. Rex Adamson.
Yeah, and this is obviously being built up as our biggest main event ever, and I'd like to think the write-up did it justice. The promo certainly did in the build-up. The 4 entrances that the guys wrote themselves were absolutely fantastic. There's no slight on anybody else because the whole Fed's great, but I feel these were the 4 people who deserve to be in this match. Consistently.
Sorry, I was about to say I don't think anyone would disagree with you. I mean, these 4 have been knocking it out of the park for God knows how long.
This obviously was all part of the thought process. We had decisions to be made over the last 6 months. Finalising who, but in my head, this was. And looking at the roster, these were the 4 for me that made the most sense. But I think the great thing about this match was not only, the stature of it, the build up, the promos, but it was genuinely for me very, very, very difficult to predict who was going to win. And there was a reasoning behind all 4 of them, and we could have had any of the 4 win, and we could have told the story and made it make sense. I don't think there was anybody that didn't deserve to win. We obviously just chose to go in the direction that we did.
When did you decide to finalize a winner? How long before you actually put it up was the winner sorted?
It came down to 2, and this is no reflection on anybody else, but because if you read the write-up, obviously Rex and Blue Dragon, I need them for something else now. I need them for a different story, and obviously that was shown in the match. It was shown in the match that things happened, and the involvement of obviously Damien Andrews and all his cronies, and obviously they focused on 2 of the superstars, which was Rex and Blue Dragon.
Yeah.
So that sort of ruled them out of the winning of the match, not because they didn't deserve to, but because I need them for a different storyline.
Yes, storylines to start / continue.
Yeah, and like I said, BD's been fantastic. Obviously, he's had that world title since last year, and we've waxed lyrical over and over again about Marky and Rex. Absolutely phenomenal from just brilliant from start to finish. So having him win again would have made perfect sense, but obviously from me and what I'm trying to do, we had to go somewhere else, and so that's what we did, which obviously brought it down to Asa and Liam, and this was an extremely difficult decision to make, and obviously they've promoted against one another on and off for the last 6 weeks or so, and they've been brilliant, and they've obviously gelled well together. I think everybody's noted on that and passed comment on how well they've worked together. And this was the difficult decision was, well, what do we do? Because somebody's going to be very disappointed at the end. And obviously we went with Asa to win. And I think he wholeheartedly deserves it. And I think, everyone agrees that since he came back or agreed to come back last year, he's been so good. His promos have been absolutely on the money every time, but so is Liam, and that was obviously hard because going back to what we were just talking about the main event, like obviously only one person can be the champion, so it's like, what do we do? because Liam wins, he deserves it. Absolutely. So then what do we do with Asa? Asa wins it and he deserves it again. Absolutely. What do we do with Liam and all this kind of thing? And that is where you have to, it's not a flip of a coin. It's where you sit down and you have to analyze where we want to get to. So this is where you have to do a bit of forward planning. You have to look at where you would like to take the next storylines. And in that instant, for me, it made sense for Asa to win. Again, one, because he deserves it, but two, because of what is to come next. And obviously, I can't tell people what's to come next, but I think for Liam, obviously winning the Gateway to Glory, and rightfully so, he's been so good. And not only is he being so good, but we have to acknowledge, and I've said this before about certain things, Liam's commitment to the Fed, is second to none. And the work that he puts in for, the posters and the video that he did for Night of Glory and the website and everything, I can't stress enough, how much he's done for the Fed. And I'm so appreciative of that. But the character, just at that time, I think him chasing this world title just now, it kind of makes sense. And what I mean by that is, difficulty is, and this is not saying that Liam's not going to become world champion or anything like that. He's more than capable and more than deserving. But him winning the Gateway to Glory and then winning the Undisputed Championship would be a great story, especially after the story we were told after the last 2 years of him overcoming all of his demons and, and exercise and all that. But then if he wins, then it's like, right, that's the whole story's told and he's kind of got to where he wants to go. And then we're going to have to start again, kind of thing. I know what I mean by that. And it's hard sometimes to put across, but because of there's so many moving parts in the Fed at the minute, and we've got so many different storylines going on and so many storylines about to happen, which will move certain characters in different directions and away from the main event and into other things. Asa winning just was the right call at that moment in time. And yeah, that's just where we are. Like I said, it was probably the hardest booking decision that I've ever had to make, because all four of them were worthy and all four of them were legitimate and deserved to win.
And going back to my initial question, how late was this call made?
Probably definitively, probably like in the final week before the pay-per-view.
Okay.
Like I said, I'd already narrowed it down to the two of them because I knew
what you've already explained,
what we were moving on to, but it was trying to work out which one not just deserves it more, because it's not just about that, like I said, because they all deserved it, all four of them, but it was more about at this present moment in time, what makes the most sense.
Yeah.
And I think
sorry. And speaking of these other storylines coming up, we have the Agents of Chaos interfering. We have Andrews coming down himself, putting his hands on Blue Dragon.
Yep.
We have the TA and Marty Helms coming down. So I think it's clear that Marty. I think that makes it clear that Marty is on Max's side.
Yeah. But remember as well that the TA and Marty, remember the segment before with Casey Tucker and obviously nobody was allowed to
Yeah.
interfere without permission. But them three, there was no way that they were given permission to interfere, or were they? You know, because
Yeah.
who somebody else might have given them permission to be there.
True, very true indeed. I mean, obviously that might be looked at more.
That's a big thing for Aftermath, obviously.
Yeah, that's what I'm implying.
And obviously, yeah, you'll have to wait for that. But you know, Damian Andrews, and obviously with what the press release that he gave and what Casey Tucker read out, tried to be very clever and careful with his wording, but potentially his wording may have backfired because, like I said, it said about permission, but you know, he's not the only person that can give permission to people to go out to ringside or not.
I believe the other person, I'm trying to think, based on I'm remembering right now, isn't the other person like a board, an unknown board member who took over Max's?
Potentially. I mean, yeah, it's all going to come out in the wash on Aftermath. I can tell you that.
Oh, yeah, and also I believe there's a it'll be a double standard if Andrews is not taken off the general manager position himself because Max was when he clearly got involved in a match.
Yeah, and obviously that's going to factor in as well on Aftermath and what is to come in the near future.
And obviously we end the show with Ace being the King of Kings.
Yeah, you know, and like I said, very well deserved. You know, and I'd be saying that about any of the four if they'd have won. You know, well deserved. But you know, I'm so pleased for Asa. The reason for that is because you know this is a guy who I'm talking not in character, I'm talking about in real life, who was a massive part of getting us set up, and he never really got that recognition that he deserved, you know, many years ago, and he has got that now, and he deserves it. And this is, it's not about, obviously the concern always, and I think the concern 10 years ago, say, for example, when we used to have a lot more kind of members who, let's just say, you know, like to throw the toys out of the pram from time to time. And
Personality clashes.
yeah, and I think this result for some people could have raised eyebrows because obviously I get along with him and I consider him a friend. Not just in storyline, but in general. You know, I really like the guy. But and I know because I've seen it happen in the past that questions would have been asked. But if anybody's being honest with themselves right now, they know that's got absolutely nothing to do with this result because you know most people, the general consensus is that he deserved to win. And if he didn't deserve to win, then obviously Liam deserved to win. So it was always going to be the fact that one of them was going to end up disappointed. And I can't please everybody at every one time. And that's just how it goes, you know. And it's, if somebody else was making, if someone else was booking, you know, they might pick somebody different. And that's just how it is. That was my decision. I think it's the best decision for right at this present moment in time. But like I said, if Liam was the undisputed champion right now, there'd be no qualms over that either. Like we'd all still be. I think everyone would be very happy for him, and I think the Fed would be in a great place. It's I'm lucky from that perspective that we've got so many guys. Like whilst it presents a booking headache, it's also fantastic that there are so many guys who are capable of being the top person in the Fed.
You literally have too much of a good thing.
Yeah, look, in the past there've been times when we haven't had this. Do you know, like, and I think I've alluded to it on previous podcasts where I think through sometimes through no fault of anyone's, or sometimes through, I don't know, bad booking maybe. You know, I'm not impervious to that either. I've done some not great booking, but I think sometimes it was always like the same kind of guys all the time, same guys getting booked at the top and not making like newer stars or giving other people an opportunity. I like to think we've changed that a little bit now. I think we've given a lot of people a lot of opportunity, but I think also you're giving yourselves opportunities because of how competitive and how good everybody is. It is, yeah. I don't think we've ever had a main event scene. Never in 18 years. It's never been this good. It's never been like, oh fucking hell, I could make him champion tomorrow, and we'd be sound. Like, because I think that's where we're at. I've got a list on my computer of the entire roster at the minute, and I could go down that list and I could go, right, we could make him champ. We could make him champ, and there'd be no issue with it whatsoever, and it would make sense. That's where we're at.
That makes it. I suppose it's a case of. I know. I'm trying to think how to word this without sounding crazy. Is it a case of? Well, I know you said storyline is key, but is it a case of? Are you trying to put out a challenge to everyone else? Basically saying, look, saying, look, this is what you have to do to get to this level. Get to this level and beat it to be within a good chance of getting that.
Well, yeah, no, because look, some people are just part of the Fed because they love being part of the Fed, aren't they? Do you know what I mean? Like, some people will be part of the Fed regardless of where they're at and what storyline they're given and what position they're at and all this kind of thing. And then there's obviously the guys that want to be at the top and all this kind of thing. And there's many people that are capable of it. I think, well, to be honest, I don't think there's nobody on the roster that's not capable of being the top guy. Like, I'm not just talking about characters, I'm talking about handlers. I don't think there's anybody involved in this Fed that can't be the champion, because I think everyone's capable of it. And it's not just that, yes, it's a challenge in a way, but at the same time, it's not like, oh my God, I want 4 or 5. I've said this before, 4, 5, 6 promos per show. That doesn't not that I'm saying that you have to impress me. It's nothing to do with that, but like, that isn't what I'm looking for with anyone, because we're all grown up now. We've all got jobs, lives, whatever, family, all that kind of stuff. Like, I don't need you to do 7, 8 promos, for every show. One promo. Yes, the opportunity is there for everybody. That's what I will say. Unlike previous runs in the Fed, different bookers or whatever, there's nobody that can't do it. Like, the opportunity is there for everybody, and I'm always thinking outside the box. Everyone can be a champ. Everyone can be the top guy. You're all good enough, like, and you all get the opportunity at one point or another to show that you're there, you're at the top. Because we definitely had that in the past where people were like, oh well, like when they used to do that tree and that, like, and it was like, I don't know who introduced that concept, but it was fucking ludicrous. Where like
You
everybody
broke up
used to,
slightly a bit.
huh?
But did you say tree?
Yeah, do you remember that tree where like
Yeah,
people used to, like, the levels of where everyone was at? That was utter bullshit. It was so self-indulgent, and it was like, oh well, yeah, they're level 3. Like, who are you to say who's level 3 or level 2 or level 1? Like, you don't get to decide that. Like, you can have an idea in your head, but you don't get to decide who's what level. Like, and that's really disheartening for some people as well. When you're saying like, oh well, he's only fucking level 4, whatever, so he's just can only win like a fucking TV title. Or no, you don't get to decide that. Like, we're a community, and if somebody's busting their ass like for 15 fucking years with promos, right? I might think, well, do you know what? Let's have a fucking world title run, because you're committed. You're giving everything. You're here. You're promoing every show. That means a lot to me. Like that's what I like. I don't need people saying, "Oh, well, he's writes absolutely brilliant, really in-depth promos every week, and he's the guy." So what? That's great, but I never liked that tree thing because, like I said, it was very self-indulgent. It was like, "Oh well, we're the best," And if we put the world title on somebody that's not on level one, that's not right. Well, no, again, you don't get to decide that. Whilst it's not saying that I'm the man with all the power, I get to decide that, though. I decide who's going to win. I decide who's going to be the world champion. And you saying that somebody is better at promoing, well, that's just an opinion. Like, that's just an opinion. I like a lot of different kind of promos. A big person that I'm massive on at the minute, and his promos are not even. I love Perfect Jack's promos. Like, I think he hits it out of the park. He taken that character in a very different direction, and I love it. And it sometimes his promos are only like 3 paragraphs or whatever. So what? Like, I like them. When you watch a TV show, you watch a wrestling show, they don't. Not everyone fucking walks out and waffles on a 15-minute soliloquy. Do you know what I mean about how fucking great
Yeah,
they
I know
are?
exactly what you mean.
Like, it's not. You do something a bit different. Like, take your opportunity. It's not about. It's supposed to be fun, and that used to sap the fun out of it. It was far too. It's not about being competitive. That was just petty, and it was too much. It was like, yeah, well, he's the top guy. Well, no, anybody. It's make believe at the end of the day, right? So I can make anybody the top guy if I want to. Like, I can make Percy the world champion if I want to, because
Do it.
yeah, no, but I have the ability to do that. I can make Brandon Perez the world champion, and we can design a story that makes sense for Brandon Perez to be the world champion. And I just think we're here. If you're not here now, I'll be honest, and I don't mean that. Don't get me wrong. This is not like saying that anybody's message, because they haven't. I'm just kind of getting on my soapbox a little bit. But like, if you're not here now in what we do as a Fed to have a good time, like, I think you're in the wrong place, because this isn't 2012 or whatever. This isn't like everyone throwing a shit fit and that. Like, if they don't win a match or they lose a feud, like, well, just get over it. Do you know what I mean? Like, or we'll have a chat. Come to me, we can talk about it. But like, I'm not gonna fucking mop your brow and like say, oh well, at the end of the day, you're not gonna win every match and you're not gonna win every feud. That doesn't mean you're shit, and it doesn't mean that the person that beats you every time is better. It doesn't always work like that. That isn't how. That's just how it goes. Like, that's like saying with me. I like to think I'm a pretty good promoer, but I'm not just gonna win every match and win every feud, and that's just ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. I like it to be fun. I like it to be laid back. I don't like anyone to sort of be like, oh, thinking they're better or that they deserve something that somebody else has. That's not how we should be. We've had that in the past, and I think it creates a real divide in the Feds. And I think this is, whilst everyone's busy and the board, fair enough, isn't like inundated with comments, but I think we're picking up. We get a lot more comments on the board. It's a nice place to be. Everyone gets along. I like that. I like that it's laid back. I like that everyone just chats with one another, and there's no sort of ulterior motives, or it's not taking it too seriously.
Yeah, like I say, I must admit, I do slip back into the occasion of thinking it's a case of what more do I have to do? I do admit to thinking like that on occasion, and it's not good, and I know it. It's just, like I say, I just don't want anyone to slip back into that mindset.
No,
I mean,
no.
I mean, for me personally, everyone knocks it out of the park and kicks my ass in a promo. All I'm doing is scrambling to keep up. That's how I see me. Yes, I'm improving Yes, I've been put into feuds where basically it's like slowly grinding up and up and up and up and up in terms of skill. But it's just a case of I still enjoy it though. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit stupid to think like I still do on occasion, but I,
Well, no, sorry,
I
I'm just
don't.
cutting into a box.
Okay.
JJ's DIY.
Yeah, it's just like it's one of those things. It's just like I don't know how to put it. It's a case of I do enjoy being here, but like I say, when you put it, how did you describe it about 5 minutes ago? Of basically enjoying it was like column A, and basically wanting to win was column B. I think I'm like 90-10 in that split. 90% column A. I love doing this. Yes, I'm not going to win all the time, but it's just a case of like.
No, don't get me wrong though. Like, I'm not saying you shouldn't want to win, because I get that you're putting your time and effort into it. Like, and your character's your creation, so naturally you're invested, and naturally, if you think I've had a great run of promos there, like you're gonna tell yourself you're in with a good chance. And I get that, and there's no harm in that. What I'm trying to say is that, like, maybe some people don't understand it as much. I don't mean this, like, those who weren't maybe around 10, 15 years ago, like, it wasn't always the nicest place. Like, and I think we lost people along the way because of that, like, because it was too bitchy and it was too serious. And that's not my
Yeah,
style. Like, I don't work like that.
and I completely understand and agree with that. It's a case of, I mean, yeah, you might. I mean, I might deserve to win. God knows how many things. So I've worked my ass off, but I know for a fact that stories take precedence over my effort. Yes, my effort is a factor,
Yeah, sorry.
but
Yeah,
it's just a
I'm
case.
listening.
But it's just a case of I know storylines take precedence, and yeah, it's just like I just want to enjoy. I mean, with people I've faced off. I mean, like I say, I will personally admit, and I hate to say this, but I thought I did enough to win against the Saint in the at Night of Glory. I thought I did enough, but I know with what you've said and what you've told me, it's a case of right. The story has to continue. You want this to continue. Completely understand. And like I said, I will admit I did get a bit mad at myself for that. It's just like, but I did speak to a couple of people about, well, one person in particular about it, who basically just said, "Mate, just enjoy the ride." And it's just like, I get it. Storylines have to continue. Just have fun, and I am.
But this is what I'm saying, and this was why I was happy with, like, the predictions of Night of Glory. This is sort of getting back to what I was saying. It was an incredibly competitive card, yeah? Probably the most competitive card we've had since we came back, and that's a good thing. So when you've got a competitive card, and when you've got predictions and so many different guesses and stuff like that, you're going to have disappointed people, because basically what's being said is that everyone in those matches has done enough to convince the community that they should win. Okay? So therefore then I have to make a decision on what we do with that information, because you deserve to win. Okay? You were great. Your promos were fantastic. But Saints promos were fantastic too. And if you'd have won, you know, he might have been saying, you know, I'm disappointed. Which is perfectly allowed to do. You're always going to have disappointed people.
JJ, have you backed off from the mic?
Can you hear me?
Barely. You've just dropped back, like you've taken a couple of good steps away.
No, it's like right by my face.
Okay, now we can hear you clearly. It's just for a few seconds you went really quiet.
Oh, sorry, guys. I've just got a big kitchen knife in my hand, that's all. So I'm ready to end it all because
You hear it first. Sorry, go ahead.
Because you're complaining about me booking, so I'm ready to finish it.
Yeah, I'm gonna be stabbed through this voice call. You heard it here first.
I'm absolutely heartbroken that you've had the audacity to question my booking.
And not like say, but you get where I'm coming from, though.
No, I do.
It's a key
wholeheartedly.
But I understand the story takes precedence and always will.
That's just me. That's just my style. Like I said, you get another person in charge, and they're going to say, they're going to look at things differently. They judge results differently, and that's fine. I'm a storyteller. That's my big thing. If the story's not there, like, I don't enjoy it. I can write matches. Until the cows come home. But if we're not telling a story, it's boring. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
That's just me. Everybody's different. It's like your preferences for wrestling. Sorry, I am just stabbing something really bad at the minute. It's not a person, by the way. Sorry. Just want to clarify that in case.
Ow. Stop stabbing me, JJ. Ow.
Anybody's concerned. But no, like, what I'm saying, we've all got different ways. And you look at wrestling promotions that are out there currently, and you look at, say, like New Japan, for example, right? Their in-ring product is fantastic most of the time. Like, I know they're having a bit of an issue at the minute, but in general, their in-ring product is really, really good. But they don't do a lot of like storyline, like backstage or in-depth storyline progression. Neither do AEW, to be honest, in my opinion. Like, they're very heavily in-ring orientated.